Chapter 1626. Lin Gu couldn't understand Qiu Heng's actions at all. He had even prepared himself for a fierce battle, because he could sense that Qiu Heng's group was much stronger than those they had encountered before. But Qiu Heng didn't make a move. Instead, he acted like a gentleman. "Bro, not only did that guy not touch us, he even promised to help us. Why do I feel like there's something fishy going on here?" Lin Gu felt uneasy. No matter what, they're still pirates. Encountering people like us who don't abide by their rules, they wouldn't help us even if they didn't teach us a lesson. "This guy is different from the others," Su Yun said calmly. "He's telling us that he can let us go at any time, but he can also find us at any time. That's another demonstration of his strength. The scariest thing about him is that we can't understand why he's doing this. His last words made it impossible for you to be rude to him." Lin Gu said helplessly. "He's so sincere that even I was infected by him. I almost wanted to call him brother. This guy's charisma really isn't for show." Su Yun smiled. Indeed, Qiu Heng's charisma was very strong. Although Qiu Heng addressed him as Mr., it made him feel like he was treating him like a brother. But if he didn't even have this ability, he probably wouldn't be able to lead the White Whale Regiment, nor would he be able to establish the White Whale Regiment in the Pacific Ocean. As a leader, charisma was one of the most basic things, especially his confidence. He said that the brothers who stayed by his side were willing to do so. That sentence seemed plain, but it showed his confidence in his position as a leader. It was an unintentional demonstration of his strength. This kind of confidence was absolutely indescribable. Just based on this point, Su Yun also believed that in this sea area, there was probably no one who could be compared to him. Even the Shark's gang was no match for him. If Su Yun had to choose between the two leaders, he believed that the one who could unify the ocean would be the White Whale Regiment, and not the Shark's gang. "Although he let us go, he might come back a second time." Su Yun smiled and said, "Lu, Guan, and Zhang have all been rejected 3 times. Maybe he has the same tenacity. If he keeps being so polite, I really can't stand it." Lin Gu said, "Brother, there's a saying that one shouldn't slap a smiling face. They're already the stronger party, yet they're still smiling at us. There's really no way to deal with them." Who said otherwise? If it was really the kind of situation where they shed all pretense of cordiality, Su Yun and Lin Gu would grit their teeth and really fight it out. At worst, they would just jump into the sea and escape after suffering a crushing defeat. However, with Qiu Heng's humble attitude, what reason did they have to fall out with him? There was no reason at all. Forget it, don't think too much about it. We still have a lot of things to deal with. We don't have time to worry about this. Su Yun, let's take it one step at a time. As long as we can find Phantom as soon as possible, this matter will be considered over. We'll just leave this place and not participate in the disputes here. Every place had its own balance. Su Yun didn't want to disturb the balance of the sea. The food chain couldn't be destroyed. The big fish eating the small fish was a rule set by God. If Su Yun destroyed the balance of power in this place, no one could predict what would happen in the end. It might even cause trouble for Principal Gu. Su Yun already felt guilty that he couldn't help Principal Gu. If he caused trouble for him, it would be even worse. Ever since Qiu Heng's visit, Su Yun and Lin Gu really stopped for a long time. The next few days were so peaceful that it made them wonder if they were in the wrong place. There was no harassment from pirates at all. Everything went smoothly, and they were always greeted with smiles. Compared to the hellish feeling a few days ago, the two felt like they were in heaven in an instant. Of course, the two soon understood why no one dared to provoke them. Those who dared to provoke them were all dealt with by the Beluga Whale clan. To Su Yun, he was in no hurry to judge whether this was good news or bad news. After one incident after another, Su Yun knew that he owed Qiu Heng more and more favors. Even if Qiu Heng was willing, Su Yun still felt embarrassed because of his principles. Principles were things that couldn't be changed easily. There was a saying that one shouldn't accept a reward for nothing. Su Yun felt awkward because of this saying. He was a person who didn't accept rewards for nothing. This was his principle. But now, He had been receiving rewards without a single merit. Therefore, he couldn't tolerate this situation. The more time passed, the more uncomfortable Su Yun felt. The more time passed, the more uncomfortable Su Yun felt. Before Chiu Hang came looking for him, he already had the thought of looking for Chiu Hang for a chat. Of course, it was just a thought. It wouldn't become a reality. Su Yun couldn't wait to avoid Chiu Hang. Chiu Hang was just too scheming. Lin Ji's psychological pressure wasn't as bad as Su Yun's. He didn't like the feeling of receiving rewards for nothing. But Lin Gu didn't mind having someone to clean up for them for free. After Chiu Hang cleaned up those small fries, he and Su Yun felt much more relaxed. In such a stressful ocean world, it wasn't easy to have such leisure time. Therefore, even though Lin Gu felt pressured, he didn't reject Chiu Hang. Chiu Hang was doing this willingly. It had nothing to do with him. It wasn't like he was the one who forced him to help. Even though there were no more messy disturbances, Su Yun and the others still didn't make much progress in their search. Indeed, if they wanted to find Phantom, it would be difficult to find any useful clues just by asking around. Of course, Phantom had to show herself. In a place like this, she needed the most basic of human body supplements. At the very least, she needed to eat and buy supplies. As long as they did that, she would show herself. But based on Phantom's appearance and figure, Su Yun and Lin Gu still couldn't find anything. This was the biggest blow they had suffered in the past few days. Every time they asked, described, and inquired, Chiu Heng's spies would record it bit by bit. Therefore, Chiu Heng already knew most of Phantom's general situation. There were many members of the Bai Jing clan. Almost all of them were sent out by Chiu Heng to look for this person. In Chiu Heng's opinion, this person was very important to Su Yun. If he could help Su Yun find this person, Su Yun wouldn't be able to refuse such a huge favor. If he could persuade this woman Su Yun was looking for to join them and stay in the sea, the chances of Su Yun staying to help him would be even higher. After deciding on the target, Chiu Heng struck hard. He didn't believe that with so many members of the Bai Jing clan, he wouldn't be able to find a single living person in the sea where he had roamed freely for so many years. In the next few days, his subordinates brought the suspects to Chiu Heng's front. Even if they only had one similarity to Su Yun's description, they would be respectfully invited to Chiu Heng by the Bai Jing clan. Chiu Heng would interrogate them one by one. Those who were completely clueless would be sent back. As for those who seemed to be pretending not to know Su Yun, he would politely ask them to stay. Just like that, a week passed. Su Yun and Lin Gu had completely gotten used to life without the fleas harassing them. During this time, Chiu Heng had also found 12 women who might be the ones Su Yun was looking for. Finally, Chiu Heng felt that the time was ripe to meet Su Yun for the second time. He brought the 12 women he found to Su Yun. Chapter 16:27. Just as Su Yun had guessed, Chiu Heng would come looking for him again. Obviously, Chiu Heng came with an even bigger entourage this time. Not only did he have a large entourage of followers, but the gift he brought for Su Yun was even more shocking. Every woman that Su Yun was looking for was treated with the highest level of treatment by Chiu Heng. He took good care of Su Yun in every possible way. However, after Chiu Heng explained the purpose of his visit, Su Yun only smiled and shook his head after meeting the 12 women. Chiu Heng was quite disappointed with this result. He never thought that after doing so much, nothing would change in the end. It was just looking for a woman. He had spent so much time and effort, but in the end, it was all for naught. Captain Chiu, no matter what, I have to thank you. Su Yun was still very grateful for Chiu Heng's efforts. Although he did not get the result he wanted, and his expectations were completely dashed, Chiu Heng's actions still touched Su Yun deeply. It made him feel grateful from the bottom of his heart. Chiu Heng was not excited at all. I didn't do anything, so there's nothing to thank me for. Since that's the case, I won't bother you anymore. Captain Chiu, I think you're on par with someone. Lin Gu spoke up when Chiu Heng was about to leave with his men. You're a very loyal person. If you say you want to help, you'll definitely help. I know a captain, just like you. Everyone calls him Dad. Ha ha ha, you're not comparing me to white-haired Dad, are you? I really can't accept that. Cho Hang was stunned, but his laughter came from the bottom of his heart. Every industry had a benchmark. In the pirate circle, white-haired Dad was the most representative figure. For example, in the LOL League, the mid laner was represented by Rise and Bright Moon, the top laner was represented by Rambo and Crocodile, the top laner was represented by Blind Monk and Centaur, the ADC was represented by Policewoman and Virus, and the support was represented by Hammerstone. When a person could become a representative figure, it meant that he was recognized by the majority. The white-haired old man was recognized as the most representative figure in the pirate circle because of his status and the era he ruled. It was hard to say about the ancient and modern times, but in the modern pirate circle, the white-haired old man was recognized as the most representative pirate of this era. Even Cho Hang felt a little ashamed to be compared to his white-haired father. "Captain Cho, we don't have anything to thank you for," Su Yun said. "We don't deserve all the help you've given us. Mr. Su Yun, I've said it before. I appreciate you. If I can't help you when you need me, I'll be tortured in my heart. Everything I did was of my own volition." Cho Hing said, "Don't feel embarrassed, hee. Besides, I've done so much, but I haven't really helped you much. None of the people I've found are right. I've already been embarrassed enough." As these words were exchanged, the atmosphere between them began to ease. All the wariness in their hearts had been erased. Cho Hang knew that although he hadn't found the right person, he had found the right way. Between Cho Hang and Su Yun, a friendship had indeed formed. Even if Su Yun didn't admit it, it was an indisputable fact. He couldn't make an enemy of Cho Hang. In this way, Cho Hang had at least achieved half of his goal. In the entire Pacific Ocean, when all the pirate groups were making enemies of Su Yun, Cho Hang and Su Yun had established an unfathomable friendship. This was Cho Hang's method and ability. The gap between people was often formed inadvertently. Why was Cho Hang able to make the Bai Jing clan big and strong? It was because he had a different way of doing things. Su Yun could roughly guess why Cho Hang did this. But even if he approached him with a motive, Su Yun still felt grateful that he had done so much for him. When dealing with people who knew how to repay kindness, Cho Hang played the favor card. After his investigation, he confirmed that Su Yun was a person who valued friendship. That was why he had done so much for him. If Su Yun was someone who didn't know the ways of the world and didn't take friendship seriously, Cho Hang wouldn't have done this. "Captain Cho, actually, in these waters, with your strength, no one can touch you. Su Yun, as far as I know, the one Principal Gu hates the most isn't you, but the Shark Gang. What's the reason?" Cho Hang laughed when he heard this. "It's simple. I only want money. I don't like to kill. Naka, on the other hand, is different. He kills for money. He'll do whatever he wants to do. That's why Principal Gu hates him to the core. As for me, I'm not a good person either. It's just that I don't do things that go too far. I don't know how to explain it, but if Mr. Su Yun is interested, I can take you to do some things. You'll understand why Principal Gu turns a blind eye to me most of the time." Su Yun was stunned. Although he didn't know where Cho Hang was taking him, he was still very interested. Lin Gu, whose curiosity was piqued, looked at Su Yun expectantly, hoping that Su Yun would agree to Cho Hang's invitation. In the end, Su Yun nodded. Cho Hang's understanding of him wasn't shallow, so he decided to learn more about Cho Hang. He wanted to see what this tyrant of the Pacific Ocean would take him to do. When they boarded Cho Hang's ship, Su Yun and Lin Gu were surprised that there weren't any luxurious rooms on the ship. Cho Hang's life wasn't as luxurious as they imagined. He even casually asked his subordinates to move the sofas and chairs to the deck. He drank and chatted with Su Yun and Lin Gu in front of all his brothers. Alcohol was a common drink for pirates. They drifted on the sea all year round, so their bodies were damp and cold. Drinking alcohol was good for the body. Moreover, after drifting on the sea for a long time, the ship couldn't store fresh water for a long time. The fresh water would stink after a long time, and under the sun, it would soon become unpalatable. Therefore, alcohol was the best substitute for water. It was said that pirates liked rum the most. Firstly, it could disinfect wounds. Secondly, it could drive away the cold. Thirdly, it could boost courage, forget sadness, and dispel worries. However, Cho Hang wasn't like that. Cho Hang was from Hua Xia, so he didn't like to drink rum. He liked to drink Hua Xia Baijiu. In his words, Hua Xia Baijiu was the real deal. After everyone had sat around the deck, someone had already brought out the wine. The Baijiu wasn't bottled. That kind of wine wasn't enough for everyone. It was brewed in a large vat, which was passed down from Cho Heng's ancestors. The wine was mellow and fragrant. When the vat was opened, a strong fragrance could be smelled. Good wine. Su Yun only took a sniff and sighed. Sometimes, one didn't need taste buds to taste wine. One could distinguish the taste of the wine by smell. Obviously, Su Yun's sense of smell was no weaker than his taste buds. You know the ropes. After Cho Heng finished speaking, he picked up a bowl of wine in front of him. His bowl was bigger than the others. Mr. Su Yun, you're my guest on my ship. I'll drink first as a toast. With this bowl of wine, I wish you all the best. A forthright person could hold his liquor well. He drank it all in one gulp without hesitation. Of course, Su Yun couldn't embarrass himself. He raised his bowl, tilted his head back, and drank it all in one gulp. The wine was strong enough. Although it was spicy, it was soft when it entered the throat. Su Yun didn't feel any discomfort after drinking it all in one gulp. Lin Gu and Su Yun raised their wine bowls, and Cho Heng's subordinates also raised their glasses and toasted Cho Heng under Emotai's signal. Chapter 1628. Everyone drank happily. Seeing that Su Yun could hold his liquor, Cho Heng did not have to worry about him getting drunk and continued to get people to pour more wine for him. After 3 rounds of drinks, some people who could not hold their liquor could not drink anymore. However, Su Yun and Cho Heng still acted as if nothing had happened. Mr. Su Yun, tell me, if you want to know why Principal Gu turned a blind eye to me, then I'll explain it to you. Cho Heng was a little tipsy now. Rob the rich and help the poor. How do you translate this sentence? Rob the rich to help the poor. Rob the rich to help the poor? Su Yun was stunned. He did not know that Cho Heng was such a person. If he was robbing the rich to help the poor, then his influence in the sea would be higher than Principal Gu's. He would not be a pirate anymore. He would be a hero thief, right? However, that was not the case. Cho Heng was still a pirate and did not have much support from the civilians. I'm not such a person. I can't rob the rich to help the poor, Cho Heng said. But I've done half of it. I only rob the rich. As for helping the poor, I won't do it. I'm a pirate, not a philanthropist. Even if I'm not a pirate, I won't be a philanthropist. Many people are helping the poor. Maybe the heavens are touched, but I'm not. Su Yun nodded. I understand what you're thinking. There's an old saying in Hua Xia, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Yes, I agree with this saying. However, I think there's a second half to it. Cho Heng said, a long time ago, there was a young man from a fishing village named Chiu. He often stood at the beach in a daze. His life was hopeless and he was always bullied. He did not even know if he had the courage to continue living. This young man from the fishing village had been an orphan since he was young. He was short and didn't look pretty. He also spoke with a thick local accent. Therefore, he had always felt inferior. He had nothing. Just as he was wandering between life and death, his good friend suddenly told him a shocking piece of news. My family said that you are actually the descendant of Qiu Jifa, the sea legend. At that time, the young man from the fishing village surnamed Qiu was shocked. Really? I am actually Qiu Jifa's descendant. His spirits were immediately lifted as he recalled the scene of his ancestor commanding thousands of men and horses to gallop across the ocean with his not-so-tall stature. He used his native accent to issue dignified orders. He suddenly felt that his short body was also filled with power, and his native accent was also somewhat noble and dignified. Just like that, based on the fact that he is Cho Jifa's descendant, based on his strong desire to become Cho Jifa today, 30 years later, he actually really galloped on the Pacific Ocean. Although he didn't have the amazing achievements of the legendary Cho Jifa of the sea, he still made people not dare to underestimate him. As for whether he is Cho Jifa's descendant or not, no one can prove it. But all of this, now, has no meaning. Su Yun knew that Cho Hang was talking about himself. Yes, it was meaningless. Regardless of whether Cho Hang was Cho Jifa's descendant or not, he had his own maritime empire. Give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. It's not wrong to teach a man to fish. But teaching a man how to fish is not as good as teaching him to desire. Cho Hang said, teaching a person how to fish is not as good as giving a person a desire and belief. Cho Hang was able to achieve what he had today because of that belief. In his heart, he only knew that, I am Cho Jifa's descendant, I can definitely do it. The power of this belief was not something that ordinary people could imagine. After a pause, Cho Hang continued, so, I will not help the poor. If I value a person, I will give him belief and desire, and let him fight for it like a man. With belief and desire, he will be able to get everything he wants. People who only rely on charity will not understand the true meaning of life. Then what is the point of living in this world? It is better to die early and reincarnate early, to be a person with aspirations in the next life. Su Yun understood what Cho Heng meant. He had his own reasons for only robbing the rich and not helping the poor. Indeed, his way of thinking was not unique. Many people had the same way of thinking. Those who needed help could be the old, the weak, the sick, and the disabled, but definitely not those who had arms and legs. Captain Cho, you're really an interesting person. Su Yun smiled faintly. This was somewhat out of his expectations. Then what is your concept of robbing the rich different from others? There are two types of rich people. Cho Heng said, the first type relies on their own ability, hard work, hard work, hard work. Bit by bit, they accumulate their wealth, multiply it, and improve their quality. This type of rich person deserves everyone's respect. They are worthy of the money they earn, and they deserve to enjoy the money they earn. I will never touch this type of rich person because I respect them from the bottom of my heart. Then, who do you want to rob? Cho Heng smiled. The other type of person. Mr. Su Yun, you should know what kind of person I am talking about, right? Su Yun smiled slightly and did not say anything. There are people in the world who earn money easily, Cho Heng said. This type of person abuses the power given by the country and uses their own power to make huge profits. I will never go easy on this type of person. Although Su Yun did not support this kind of illegal method, Su Yun still gave Cho Heng a silent thumbs up in his heart. This type of person also knows how to enjoy life because the wealth they accumulate quickly simply falls from the sky. They don't have to work at all, and they get the wealth they want. That's why they are extravagant, and wasteful. Cho Hang said, I like to make an example of this type of person. It seemed that corrupt people were not having a good time. The country was fighting tigers, and it was easy for them to be targeted when they traveled. Therefore, those who have power, don't think about how to earn more. Think about how to give more to the people. It's not difficult for me to understand why Principal Gu would turn a blind eye to Captain Chiu. Su Yun said lightly, if it were me, I would do the same. You mean, would you do what Principal Gu did, or would you do what I did? Cho Heng suddenly asked. Su Yun did not hesitate for a moment. I would do both. Good. I will bring you to do what I want to do today. Cho Heng said, it's not too late to regret now. Rob the rich? Su Yun was stunned. Cho Heng nodded. The target is Meng Zhizhong. I don't know what his position is, but he has a lot of power. I heard that 15 years ago, he was the secretary of a small county in Huaxia, and he had the nickname Meng 300 million. 15 years ago, how much was 300 million in Huaxia? At that time, An ordinary family's annual income should be around 10,000, right? Hearing this person's nickname, Su Yun was shocked. A person who was greedy for 300 million should die 1,000 times to atone for his sins. How much was the basic salary for government officials announced this year? 2,800 clerks, 3,000 staff members, 3,100 deputy section chiefs, 3,300 section chiefs, 3,600 deputy division chiefs, 4,000 division chiefs, 4,400 deputy department chiefs, 5,000 deputy department chiefs, 5,500 deputy department chiefs, and 6,000 senior officials. Even if a person becomes a senior official at the age of 18 and retires at the age of 68, he will not spend a single cent of his basic salary for 50 years. Only then will he be able to save 6 million. In Yanjing, he can barely afford a 5-ring 3-bedroom apartment. Meng 300 million really had a pair of black hands. I am interested to meet this Meng 300 million with you. Su Yun's lips curled into a smile. Chapter 1629. After the founding of the People's Republic of China, China had carried out large-scale socialist construction in a planned manner, and it had become one of the economic powers with the most potential in the world. Now, it had already established a relatively complete socialist market economy, and it would only take a few years to establish a relatively mature socialist market economy. These achievements that attracted the attention of the world belonged to every working person in the country. Of course, while everything was progressing positively, there were always some things that were the opposite. The country's economy was rising rapidly, but the economic growth of the people could not catch up. Some were even left far behind. The growth of wages could never be compared to the growth of housing prices. There was once a joke about a conversation between a leader of a reform committee and his assistant. The assistant director of the reform committee, yes. The assistant director of the reform committee, then what if they don't take the car? The assistant director of the reform committee, yes. The assistant director of the reform committee, then what if they don't take the car? The assistant director of the reform committee, yes. The assistant director of the reform committee, then what if they don't take the car? The assistant director of the reform committee, yes. The assistant director of the reform committee, then what if they don't use the car? The assistant director of the reform committee, yes. The assistant director of the reform committee, then what if they don't use the car? The assistant director of the reform committee, yes. The assistant director of the reform committee, then what if they don't use the car? The assistant director of the reform committee, yes. The assistant director of the reform committee, then what if they don't use the car? A certain director of the reform committee was getting anxious. Why are you so stupid? Then adjust the electricity price. I'll watch them eat it raw. A certain assistant director of the restructuring committee said, the director is brilliant. But what if some people use firewood to cook? A certain director of the reform committee, if they use coal to cook, we'll adjust the price of coal. If they don't even use coal, then don't blame me for being rude. F*CK, adjust the water price, I'll see if they drink water or not. A certain assistant to the director of the reform committee, what if they don't drink? A certain director of the reform committee, don't drink? If they don't drink water, they will be dehydrated, right? You have to be sent to the hospital if you're dehydrated? A certain assistant director asked, what do you mean? A certain director of the reform committee, are you stupid? Do you still need me to teach you? Let's see what else he can do if we increase the medical fees. If he's still so awesome, I'll raise the cremation fee too. I'll make him beg for death. Of course, this was just a joke. It didn't mean that all leaders didn't do anything for the people. It was just that some people like to take advantage of opportunities and neglect their duties. If this type of person was not worthy of the black veil on his head, then the people below him were even more unworthy. Those who used their authority to seek huge profits were even more disgusting. The rich man that Qiu Hang wanted to rob with Su Yun today was a typical example of such a person. This Meng Zhizhong was really a bold representative. When he had just gained power, the price of official positions in the city he was in had changed from hidden deals to clearly marked prices. The county party secretary was paid 500,000 yuan, the director of a bureau in the county was paid 200,000 yuan, and even the deputy mayor of a small town dared to ask for 50,000 yuan. His wife was even more ruthless. During those years, she had engaged in real estate development in all the cities that he had worked in. As long as there was an area that she liked, she would demolish it without any explanation. She even set up a shell company and took on almost all the projects that Meng Zhizhong could get his hands on. How greedy was this? It was not something that could be explained in 1 or 2 sentences. This guy could be said to be using his authority to obtain wealth without any scruples. His son had already applied for a foreign citizenship and transferred his assets overseas. Now that the crackdown was very severe, he was also very glad that he had pulled out in time and retreated one step earlier. Seeing those people who were similar to him being dealt with one by one, Meng Zhizhong had an indescribable feeling in his heart. This time, Meng Zhizhong appeared here to hold a birthday party for his son. He directly booked the whole place in a 5-star hotel in Hawaii and spent a lot of money on it. Although the birthday party was over, his son had bought a cruise ship and wanted to hold a Hawaiian version of the Ocean Festival. So, the party was still going on. Meng Zhizhong also didn't refuse his son's invitation to the feast. His wife had already died of an illness due to her greed and overwork from attracting too much business. He and his son didn't have anything to worry about. With so many beautiful women accompanying him, a feast was also Meng Zhizhong's dream. Meng Zhizhong liked this kind of thing very much when he was young. There were rumors that every time he went to inspect a place, the last item on his agenda would be to find a strange girl and get a room in a hotel. But in fact, this was not true. Every time Meng Zhizhong went to inspect a place, he would be very ostentatious. Not only would there be police cars to clear the way, but there would also be armed police. It was not convenient for him to go to a hotel and get a room. However, he had his own palace, which was a private hotel. The 4th and 5th floors were his private world. Those who had been there knew that when the elevator came out of the 5th floor, there was a big room with many spacious bathrooms for guests to shower. In addition to the bathrooms, there was a bar, a ballroom, a billiard room, a dance studio, an archery room, and so on. At that time, Meng Zhizhong would often bring all kinds of people who were similar to him to take a bath here and do some ridiculous and outrageous things. The fact that he had more than 30 mistresses was also an open secret. Even his wife and son knew about it. But who asked him to be the head of the family to be so capable? No one said anything about him. What's more, his 30+ wasn't much. Compared to Zhang Erjiang, that kind of pervert, he was far from it. How many mistresses did Zhang Erjiang have? 107. F*ck, if he got one more, he could directly film water margin. Meng Zhizhong withdrew before Yan Zhongfeng. Since all of his assets had been transferred outside, and the money had basically been washed clean, formal means of investigation were meaningless to him. He was still able to get away with it, which made many people feel uncomfortable. However, the heavens were watching everything that a person did. As long as a person did something that he shouldn't have done, he would never be able to escape the punishment of the heavens. Yes, no one in the country could do anything to Meng Zhizhong. But now that he was here, there was someone who could deal with him. If this damned black sheep didn't get the punishment he deserved, then God was too blind. If such a bastard didn't get the retribution he deserved, then God wouldn't tolerate it. It was not that retribution did not come, it would come sooner or later. Perhaps God would not care for everyone who did good deeds and would not let every good person live a long life. But God would definitely not let any evil person off. After doing something wrong, there would always be ghosts knocking on the door. Meng Zhizhong probably would never have thought that he would fall into this trap on the high seas, right? No one could escape retribution. Especially people like Meng Zhizhong. A huge cruise ship on the high seas. Such a huge thing wasted a lot of resources every time it went out to sea. It was definitely not something an ordinary person could imagine. Just because a prodigal second generation wanted to hold a Hawaiian version of the Sky Sea Feast, they sent out such a huge cruise ship. One had to know that only a group of prodigal second-generation rich people could afford to hold the Sonia event. It was needless to say how extravagant and wasteful it was. Other than people who had money in their pockets for free, who would have the courage to do so? No one would have the courage to do so. Such a willful thing, only the second generation of corrupt officials could do it, right? No normal person would have the courage to do so. Chapter 1630. For such a luxurious cruise ship to appear dozens of nautical miles away from Hawaii, it would easily become a big piece of fat meat in the eyes of the pirates. Such a luxurious cruise ship was considered common in these waters, but generally, no one dared to touch it. The person who had the ability to build such a cruise ship must have terrifying financial resources. How could someone with such financial resources not hire some experts around him? Many pirates had suffered such losses before. When a piece of fat meat was particularly fragrant and sweet, no one dared to touch it, because this kind of fat meat was definitely much more protected than ordinary fat meat. Big gangs like the Bai Jing clan were not willing to touch such a big piece of fat meat easily. If they encountered a situation where experts were as common as the clouds, even if they could get a considerable amount of money, the sacrifice would also be considerable. That was why no one was willing to touch such a luxurious cruise ship. Chiu Heng's decision to use this luxurious cruise ship this time was also a last-minute decision because Su Yun promised to go with him. Of course, there was another reason. He had already investigated the target this time. It was a big greed, and the kind that had retired. There was an advantage to dealing with such people. They felt that money and life could not be compared. As long as they could save their lives, they really did not care how much money they had. In the eyes of such people, money was dung, not even as fragrant as their farts. Therefore, Chiu Heng preferred to treat such people as targets of robbery. Secondly, this guy was a retired big greed. There was an idiom in Hua Xia, when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. It meant that when the person who relied on the mountain fell, the people who followed him would scatter. This was a very normal phenomenon. Even if this big greed did not admit it, he should be very clear about the contrast after he stepped down. When he was in power and position, his house was as busy as a marketplace, and there was not a single day of idleness. But after he retired in order to protect himself, not to mention the house being as busy as a marketplace, even the drinking parties had changed from being able to cancel more than 10 parties a day to only having one meal every 3 to 5 days, let alone the house being as busy as a marketplace. Moreover, this banquet was no longer a banquet for those in power. It was a group of retired old men. It was unknown whether it was for the sake of chatting or for the sake of consoling one's soul, but in any case, there would always be someone who couldn't help but shout. Everyone would come out to brag about their great achievements back in the day and try to find the feeling of being a leader. The only difference was that in the past, there were always people who served him tea and flattered him. After he retired, it became his own job to serve tea and water. When he bragged about it, he didn't hold himself as high as before. Without that tall hat on his head, sometimes he really felt like there was a gust of wind and it was cool. What felt cold was not the top of his head, but his heart. Such a person had already alienated himself from his power. When faced with some difficulties, he would try his best to use the money he had accumulated to solve them. He no longer had that, "I have power, so I'm not afraid of anything," attitude. If Chiu Heng wanted to make a move, he would make these people suffer in silence. Under the night sky, the Pacific Ocean was very quiet, but in the distance, the lights were waning, and the noise was playing out a ridiculous cruise ship feast. A father and son actually took a group of young models of various countries out to sea to perform those vulgar shows. It was simply unbelievable. However, such a ridiculous thing was happening on a cruise ship less than a few nautical miles away from Su Yun. Although they were still far away, Su Yun seemed to have heard the laughter on the cruise ship. It seems that the cruise ship is very happy. Lin Gu stood next to Su Yun, holding a pair of binoculars in his hand. This binoculars is not bad. It even has night vision infrared. I can see a lot of long legs from so far away. They're still wearing bikinis in such a strong sea breeze. It's really not easy for these girls to earn money. It's not easy for them to earn money? They can earn tens of thousands of yuan just by showing their bodies and twisting their bodies. If they serve their masters well, they can earn hundreds of thousands of yuan for just a night of sex. Su Yun shook his head in disdain. Who can earn money more easily than them? They're so young, wasting away their youth. It'll be too late for regrets when they're old. Qiu Hang also joined in the conversation between Su Yun and Lin Gu. Everyone has their own ambitions. Some girls think that their bodies are the greatest assets given to them by God. If they don't use their bodies well while they're still young, it'll be a waste when they're old. These girls are often hurt and think that there's no good man in the world, so they don't care about their bodies. Captain Chiu's words make sense. No one is born to be a degenerate. They're all pulled down by the scum of society. Su Yun, these girls are pitiful, but pitiful people must have something to hate. Haha, no one can say for sure. Qiu Heng nodded. These girls are considered a vulnerable group in my eyes. I won't make things difficult for them. Mr. Su Yun, what do you think of this? Of course, I won't make things difficult for them. They'll regret it sooner or later because of their lack of self-respect. Let them fend for themselves. Su Yun shook his head helplessly. I just want to see what Meng San Yi is like today. Then you'd better be mentally prepared. Qiu Heng laughed. His performance will definitely be beyond your expectations. In the end, he's just a cowardly bastard. Su Yun's eyes turned cold. Suddenly, he had a thought. It really didn't matter if he killed a greedy person in international waters. Qiu Heng nodded. Everyone is afraid of death. The richer you are, the more afraid you are of death. While they were talking, Qiu Heng's boat was getting closer and closer to the cruise ship that Meng Zhizhong and his son rented. At this time, the people who were sent out to gather information returned. That cruise ship is defenseless. There are a few bodyguards, but they don't look like powerful people. The rest are all young ladies in their 20s. They're all dressed scantily and coquettishly. I didn't even have the nerve to look at them, so I came back. The spy looked like he didn't want to get close to women. Qiu Heng smiled. Did you see them clearly? Don't let anything happen. If there are too many masters on that cruise ship, I'll make you the first one to be cannon fodder. Captain, don't worry. I'll be the first to board the ship. I'll catch the prettiest girl on the ship and make her your bride. The spy joked. Get lost. Emotai glared at him and said half-jokingly, How many hands do those women have? How can they be brides? Don't you know how to talk? They're not even fit to be the captain's mistress. A bunch of rotten shoes. Yes, yes, yes. A bunch of rotten shoes. A bunch of rotten shoes. The spy laughed as he left. Qiu Heng glanced at Su Yun. Mr. Su Yun, if you like, you can pick a few nights on the cruise ship to enjoy. I believe those girls won't dare to resist. I don't like rotten shoes either. Su Yun smiled and declined politely. Lin Gu didn't wait for Qiu Heng to speak and rejected his good intentions. I have a wife. I won't cheat on her. If you like her, you can keep her for yourself. I don't care if you want to be a groom every night. I'm just going to teach that greedy guy a lesson with my brother. We can't let him get away with it. The two boats got closer bit by bit. Seeing that the cruise ship was less than a nautical mile away, Emotai wanted to order the boats to stop and then send people to surround the cruise ship. However, Qiu Heng changed his strategy. He decided to approach the cruise ship directly and board the cruise ship to catch the other party off guard. Lin Gu rubbed his hands and waited to board the cruise ship. Su Yun also couldn't wait to see how many pairs of hands Meng Sanyi had. How could he be so greedy? Chapter 1631. On the luxurious cruise ship, there was singing and dancing. Their slender waists were dazzling. Not to mention men, even women would be mesmerized by these seductresses. Qiu Heng's men were all men, and when they saw this scene, they could not tear their eyes away. It was not easy to see such an erotic scene in a place with so many men. For a moment, these guys who boarded the ship to rob were completely dumbfounded. No one could bear to do it. Even if they were not men who had tender feelings for women, they could not bear to do it in the face of so many girls with long legs and slender waists. "Captain, you really put us at a loss for what to do today. I can't even straighten my back. How do you expect me to do it?" Someone began to complain. He was not the only one who could not straighten his back. These guys, who were lucky to see a woman once every 10 days or half a month, had unknowingly set up small tents. Cho Hang shook his head helplessly. These guys were really useless. There are plenty of women in the world. You don't have to be angry just because of these peripheral women, right? That's enough. Stop it. If anyone dares to stand up again, I'll chop them up. Open your eyes and don't be so ignorant. After this, I'll take you to relax. Kita's Dancer Bar. Each of you will get 2. Is that enough? Yes. Everyone roared in excitement. It seemed that sometimes, spiritual promises were more effective than money and material goods in increasing one's motivation. None of them even asked how much money they would get after this. Presumably, Cho Hang was very good at dealing with these kinds of things, so none of them cared about the share of the loot. They did not care about how much money they would get. What they cared about was what kind of spiritual life Cho Hang could give them. This was not the most basic and simple problem of food and clothing. Seeing this, Su Yun had no choice but to believe what Cho Hang had said before. The brothers who stayed by his side were willing to go through thick and thin with him. They were all willing to do so. None of these people were in this industry to earn money to support their families. They were mainly in this industry because they wanted to follow Cho Hang. To be able to do this, it was no wonder that Lin Gu would compare him to his white-haired father. The people around the white-haired old man were all like that. They only followed him for the sake of following him. Money, status, those people were no longer lacking. What they lacked was a yearning and hope, and the captain could give them that. That was why they followed him without hesitation. Su Yun admired Cho Hang even more now. It was only when the Beluga clan's pirate army arrived that the people on the cruise ship realized that something had happened. When Cho Hang's ship approached them, no one noticed it. Everyone was in the middle of the party. Even the ship's staff were busy enjoying themselves. The captain, the first mate, the sailors, and even the violin-playing musicians and the chefs in the kitchen were all invited to the huge deck to participate in the feast. Her long, white legs and slender waist completely blinded everyone on the ship. It wasn't until the Beluga clan's flag appeared before their eyes that they finally realized what was going on. "It's the Beluga clan!" someone shouted in panic. In an instant, the entire deck was in chaos. Meng Zhizhong and his son didn't know what the Beluga clan was, but everyone else did. Everyone on the ship knew. As for the dozens of bikini-clad models on the periphery, some knew, some didn't. When they saw someone panicking, they also panicked and tried to escape. But this was a cruise ship. No matter how they ran, they couldn't escape. They were surrounded by the boundless ocean. Where could they run to? Bang! A gunshot rang out. The atmosphere on the scene changed once again. The Beluga clan's reputation was indeed effective. Other than the uncontrollable sound system that was still ringing, all the living were silent. Meng Zhizhong and his son, who was hugging each other, were also dumbfounded. They now knew who they had bumped into. The 4 bodyguards that Meng Zhizhong hired at a high price didn't step forward. In fact, they even retreated after seeing the flag. "My apologies, everyone. I'm Cho Hang. I was just passing by and saw how beautiful your cruise ship is. The atmosphere is so good, so I couldn't help but come up and ask for a bowl of wine." Cho Hang smiled. "If my brothers have done anything wrong and disturbed everyone's mood, then I'd like to apologize." The polite opening speech eased the tense atmosphere considerably. But the members of the Beluga Whale Regiment knew that although their captain's words were pleasant to the ears, he wouldn't be careless when it came to action. "Who are you people? Do you know what manners are?" Meng Zhizhong's son, Meng Chunqing, wasn't someone to be trifled with. He was used to being domineering since young. How could he tolerate others messing with his place? One must know that when he was playing in the nightclub, if anyone dared to provoke him, he would pick up a wine bottle and smash it on their head. Well, it couldn't be helped. Who asked his father to be so capable? He could even boast that even if he killed someone, his old man would ensure his safety. His father was Li Tan? His father was Li Danjiang? Those second-generation kids couldn't compare to him at all. Meng Chunxing didn't even need to point at someone's nose and say, "My father is Meng Zhizhong." Usually, if anything happened, someone would secretly point at him and say, "This is Meng Zhizhong's son." You can't afford to offend him. Meng Chunxing grew up in such an environment. How could he not be arrogant? How could he not be arrogant? His arrogance was a trait that was ingrained in him since birth. His unruly nature flowed in his blood. Why don't you take a look at where this is? Is this a place where you messy people can come and go as you please? Scram. Meng Chunxing had always thought of himself as the heavenly king. Today was no exception. Especially in front of so many ladies, he wanted to show his most domineering side. The Beluga clan members were dumbfounded. This guy was really bold to be so arrogant. Everyone looked at Qiu Hang, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. They wanted to see how the captain was going to teach this guy a lesson. Seeing that the other party still didn't respond to his orders, Meng Chunxing vented his anger on the 4 bodyguards. What did I hire you for? I didn't hire you to watch the show for free. Get rid of these messy people for me. Otherwise, get the hell out of here. Young Master Meng, people of our level don't dare to block the Beluga clan's way. One of the 4 bodyguards spoke up. Take the 50% commission you paid us as our protection. We don't want the remaining 50%. We're not doing this business anymore. You're not doing this business just like that. Where's your professional ethics? Meng Chunxing wanted to continue cursing, but was stopped by his father. After all, Meng Zhizhong had rich experience in society. Based on the reactions of the others, he could roughly guess what kind of big shot the other party's leader was. He wasn't someone they could afford to offend. My friend, it's fate that we met on this vast ocean. We're all Chinese. There's no need for tit for tat. Meng Zhizhong stopped his hot-tempered son. He wanted to use a friendly chat to resolve the conflict that was about to erupt. But Meng Chunxing didn't give his father any face. He spat fiercely. Dad, why are you talking about friends with them? Can't you see? They're a bunch of bandits, shameless scum. Meng Zhizhong almost suffocated himself to death. Was this his child? Why was he so stupid? It was precisely because the other party was a bandit that he had to treat them with caution. Wasn't he just looking for trouble by scolding them? Chapter 1632. Meng Chunxing's scolding ignited the anger of the Baijing clan. You could call them bandits, that was the truth. But you couldn't call them shameless scum. Compared to a greedy second generation, the brothers of the Baijing clan felt that they had a sense of shame. At the very least, they earned money with their own hands, right? Shut up. Meng Zhizhong glared fiercely at his son. He was really afraid that his son's words would provoke these ferocious-looking pirates. When the time came, even if they didn't kill them, chopping off their arms and legs would be enough for them to suffer. It was his fault for spoiling this disappointing son of his since young. He simply didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Meng Chunxing was still fearless. Dad, why should we be afraid of them? They're pirates. They're just a bunch of mobs. If they dare to touch us, our country has a warship escort. I don't believe they haven't heard of it. When a few warships come over, we'll wipe them out directly. Let's see if they still dare to be arrogant. Aya, this kid knows the ropes. He even knows about warship escorts. Looks like the Somali warship escort is quite famous around the world. Even these unscrupulous people have heard of it and even used it to scare people. Little kid, warship escorts are meant to protect legitimate commercial ships and protect the interests of citizens who have the right to enjoy such protection. Qiu Hang showed no signs of turning hostile. But what are you doing? Large-scale improper activities of men and women on the high seas? Does this need protection? Is this a normal interest that should be protected? This, I'm afraid you can't trouble the country. The country has already fattened your father, this big parasite, enough. Your family shouldn't ask for more. That will embarrass the country. Meng Zizhong was stunned when he heard this. The pirate leader's voiceover seemed to be telling him that they already knew his background. Seeing Meng Zizhong's confusion, Qiu Hang also spoke frankly. Leader, although I don't know what position you retired from, I heard that you had a nickname many years ago, Meng 300 billion. Hee hee. Since you're here as a guest today, I must use the most cordial way to welcome you. Otherwise, it would be breaking our local rules. Meng Zizhong was really dumbfounded. They even knew his nickname, Meng 300 billion. This group of people was really too powerful. To be able to do intelligence work to this extent, it was really too exaggerated. One had to know that no one had called him by this nickname for many years. Captain Qiu, since you have your own rules here, then we'll naturally have to do as the Romans do. If you have any rules, just tell us and we'll do as you say. Meng Zizhong was indeed rich and overbearing. No matter what the rules are, let's not hurt the harmony between us. As the saying goes, harmony breeds wealth. Good, good. Qiu Hang clapped his hands and said, Since the leader is so cooperative, I have nothing else to say. Mo Tai, tell the leader about our rules here. Everyone, harmony breeds wealth. Ladies, don't be idle. Since you're on this boat, you must have received money from the leader and young master. Perform whatever you're supposed to perform. Don't treat us as outsiders. My subordinates are all very generous. Who knows, maybe they'll reward whoever does the best. Although Qiu Hang said so, none of the women dared to flirt in front of a group of pirates. Even a fool would know that flirting in front of a group of pirates was akin to asking for a round of beatings. If anyone was tired of living, then go ahead and do it. At this moment, Mo Tai took a step forward. Leader, our rules are very simple. Since our brothers have worked so hard to come to your boat, you should at least give them some appearance fees. Don't let our brothers come here for nothing. As for how you express it to our captain, that will depend on your sincerity. If you're sincere enough, then we'll send you off with a smile. If you're not sincere enough, then don't blame us for turning against you. Meng Zizhong only had one thought now, which was to pay to avoid disaster. As long as it was something that could be solved with money, it was not a problem. He looked around and saw that there were at least 100 pirates surrounding them. To get rid of them, it would probably be a large number, right? Tell me, how much do you want for our brother's hard work? Meng Zizhong's heart was in his throat. 100,000 USD, Mo Tai said. Although Meng Zizhong felt the pinch, this number was still within his expectations. Hence, he gladly accepted it. All right, 100,000 USD, I agree. I'll prepare the cash for our brothers immediately. Brothers, take it and distribute it. Thank you for your hard work. To be able to take out 1 million USD just like that, it was definitely not something that an ordinary person could do. Distribute it? Leader, what do you mean by that? Mo Tai said, the 100,000 USD I'm talking about is based on the number of people. Based on the number of people. Meng Zizhong was stunned. More than 100 people had boarded the ship. How much would that cost? 100,000 USD per person, that would be tens of millions of USD. Are you crazy? Even if you rob a bank, you won't be able to get so much money. You're right. Even the bank doesn't have so much money, but you do. Mo Tai said, you're taking out 100,000 USD for our brothers to distribute. Are you trying to send us beggars? The corner of Meng Zizhong's mouth twitched. This group of people was determined to rip him off. Your appetite is too big. Meng Chunxing said, no way. Let me tell you, today, you won't get a single cent. If you dare to touch us, you can try. Do you know what rank my father used to be? If he wanted to deal with a mob like you, it would be a piece of cake. Qiu Hang grinned and turned to look at Su Yun. Mr. Su Yun, I haven't been back in China for many years, so I don't know much about the country's situation. But you do. Do you think that the country will send troops to suppress us just because of a fallen greedy tycoon? Su Yun looked at Meng Zhizhong coldly. As long as it's greed, no matter whether it's big or small, the country will punish it severely. Even if you kill him here today, no one will convict you of any crime. In fact, the people of Huaxia will thank you for getting rid of a scourge for the people. I'm relieved to hear that, Qiu Heng said. Leader, you've heard it. If you can't take out the money, I'll get rid of a scourge for the people. Meng Zhizhong gritted his teeth. All right. 100,000 USD. 100,000 USD per person. But I don't have cash here, so I can only use other methods to pay. Of course, any method of payment is fine, Qiu Heng said. We don't mind. The anger in Su Yun's heart burned even more. This guy was really rich. Tens of millions of USD, and he took it out just like that. He didn't hesitate at all. No wonder he was called Meng 300 billion. This guy's net worth was probably not as simple as 300 million. He was probably worth 3 billion. Meng Zhizhong's heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. Even if it was his ill-gotten wealth, he could not bear to throw away such a large sum of money. You've satisfied all of our brother's requests. All that's left is to talk to our captain, Emotai said. Leader, whether you're sincere or not depends on how big of a gift you can give us. The anger in Meng Chuanqing's heart was about to ignite himself. But when he saw that his father was determined to spend money to avoid disaster, he could only suppress his anger. Captain, I've already agreed to your brother's conditions. Is that sincere enough? Meng Zhizhong laughed bitterly. What other requests do you have? I really don't dare to say anything. If I say something wrong, I'll... Leader, this gift from my brothers is just a drop in the ocean for you, Qiu Heng said. It didn't hurt your bones, did it? Ha ha ha, if you really don't know how much to show your sincerity, it's okay. I can name my own price. Chapter 1633. As long as he could name his own price, that would be great. Meng Zhizhong felt as if a boulder had been lifted off his chest. If he had to name his price, it would be priceless. As long as the other party was willing to name his price, it would be easy to solve the problem. 300 million, Qiu Heng said casually. Since the leader's nickname is Meng 300 million, I'll ask for 300 million for you. That's not too much, right? That's not too much. Is he treating money like paper money? 300 million? Even when Meng Zhizhong burned joss paper for his ancestors, he didn't even burn 300 million joss paper at his ancestors' graves. Now, a pirate leader was asking him for 300 million? Does he think he's the people's bank? Does he think he can print as much as he wants? However, before Meng Zhizhong could say anything, Qiu Heng added, Leader, I'm talking about US dollars. That's not too much to ask for, right? Meng Zhizhong almost collapsed to the ground. 300 million US dollars. Is this a joke? That's asking for my life. How can you be so greedy? Meng Chunsheng couldn't take it anymore. 300 million US dollars? Humph, you greedy scum. Today, I'll say this on behalf of my father. I'll give you 50 million US dollars. Take the money and get lost. 50 million US dollars was equivalent to 300 million RMB. It seemed that the title Meng 300 million was not for nothing. He might feel the pinch for 300 million US dollars, but 300 million RMB was nothing to his son. How could he feel the pinch? 50 million is not enough. Qiu Heng gave Emotai a look, and Emotai suddenly made a move and subdued Meng Chunqing. Meng Chuanqing's physique was not strong enough, and his body had been hollowed out by wine and women for many years. He had no ability to resist. Let go of me, scoundrel. Although Meng Chunsheng was a piece of trash, his mouth was unforgiving as he cursed. Emotai didn't fall for it. He took out a bloody dagger from his boot and stuffed it into Meng Chuanqing's mouth. The tip of the dagger was pressed against Meng Chuanqing's tongue. The edge of the dagger could tear open the corner of his mouth at any moment. This shut Meng Chunqing up. With the dagger in his mouth, Meng Chunxing became much more well-behaved. He opened his mouth and allowed his saliva to flow down. He didn't dare to make any rebuttal. If the other party were to stab him in the throat, then he would have no place to cry. Meng Zhizhong was scared when he saw this scene. The other party was a pirate who killed without blinking an eye. He was the only child. He couldn't let others cripple him. If he was crippled, his Meng family would have no successor. At his age, it would be impossible for him to have another one. An old man married a beautiful young wife. Not long after, the young wife got pregnant. The old man was overjoyed. His neighbor couldn't stand it and told the old man a story. A hunter forgot to bring his bullets and went hunting. When he saw a black bear, he opened fire and the bear fell dead. He asked the old man why. The old man replied, "Someone else must have fired the gun." Others didn't know the meaning of this story, but Meng Zhizhong knew. At his age, he was a shotgun without bullets. Even if he shot the prey, there must be someone else who helped him in the dark. Therefore, he had to protect his only child. No matter how much money he had, he couldn't lose his son's life. Although Meng Zhizhong couldn't be sure if his son had an illegitimate child, he didn't have a proper daughter-in-law or grandson yet. Captain, don't make our brothers agitated. Harmony breeds wealth. Harmony breeds wealth. It's my fault for not educating my son well. I hope everyone can be magnanimous and not be calculative with him. Meng Zhizhong was really scared. That sharp dagger reflected a silver light, which made him frightened and flustered. Qiu Heng's gentleness was only on the surface. "Leader, I don't have the final say in this. My brothers have their own personalities. You didn't offend me. You offended my brothers. It's useless to talk to me. How much do you think your son is worth? You can talk to my brothers about it." Meng Zhizhong's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He had already asked for $300 million, and he still wanted him to redeem his son? Were these people going to exploit him until he didn't even have his underwear left? This D*Ned cruise ship banquet made Meng Zhizhong furious. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have let his son do such a ridiculous thing. Even if he could leave this place alive, he would be back to square one. How could he continue living like this? Especially his son, who was addicted to luxury. He couldn't survive without money. "Leader, your son is trash. He's really worthless." Mo Tai laughed. "Just give me whatever you want. I'll just do you a favor. Don't you think so?" Yes. Meng Zhizhong nodded. "Brother, please give my son a way out. I apologize on his behalf for offending you. Just tell me how much you want. Didn't I say that your son is worthless? Just give me whatever you want." Mo Tai said, "Don't tell me you don't understand such simple words." Meng Zhizhong swallowed his saliva and asked tentatively, $1 million USD? $1 million USD? Mo Tai said in surprise, "Captain, you really have the heart of a parent." Even if Crow's father looked at Crow, he wouldn't think that his child was black. "I said that his son is worthless. I'll let him go if you give me a little. I can even give you $1 million USD. Ha ha ha, I've made a killing this time." Qiu Hang grinned. "How much did you think his son was worth?" "His son? Worthless *T. Mo Tai said, "I'll let him go even if he gives me a dollar coin." Then, Mo Tai pulled out the dagger that was stuffed into Meng Chunxing's mouth and kicked him away. Meng Chunxing scrambled to Meng Zhizhong's side. His face was filled with anger and disappointment. "Dad, I'm your son. Am I only worth 1 million in your eyes? You're still thinking about this at a time like this?" Meng Zhizhong was angry and anxious. Qiu Hang clapped his hands and asked someone to bring the laptop over. He personally went forward and opened the laptop in front of Meng Zhizhong. "Leader, you have so much money. I believe you're very familiar with the Swiss bank's online bank transfer system, right? 24 hours. As long as the information you submit is detailed enough and verified by the computer's fingerprint recognition system, no matter how much money you have, you can transfer it out. This laptop was custom-made. Any super big customer of a Swiss bank would be familiar with this type of computer. This was a professional computer for the rich who wanted to deposit or transfer hundreds of millions of yuan. It was convenient for the customer to use the money at any time. Why did so many rich people deposit their money in Swiss banks? It was because of this comprehensive service. There was no such thing as, if you have more than XX yuan, you have to apply 24 hours in advance. Meng Zhizhong was stunned. These people were really well prepared. If you say that your money isn't in the Swiss bank, then... Before Meng Zhizhong could finish his sentence, Mo Tai took out the dagger in his hand again. The cold gleam of the dagger made Meng Zhizhong shudder. Su Yun watched this scene unfold. He really wanted to see how this greedy person could easily take out hundreds of millions of dollars. How much of this was earned by the taxpayers? Damn Meng, 300 million. Meng Zhizhong had no choice but to sit in front of the laptop. He was so familiar with the Swiss bank's online login system, but his mind was blank. He couldn't even remember the account number. At this time, no one would not panic. Chapter 1634. Although this was the mentality of a normal person, Meng Zhizhong was the one sitting here, so no one would believe him. Meng Zhizhong's heart was in a mess. He was even more anxious than the others to remember his bank account number. Now was not the time to throw a tantrum. He had to cooperate obediently so that he wouldn't be taken advantage of. The reason why Meng Zhizhong forgot his bank account number wasn't because his brain wasn't working well. It was because he had to remember which bank account had the same amount of money as the other party. Even if it was just a little bit less, the other party wouldn't be angry. This was the real difficult part. If he couldn't remember, then this matter would be troublesome. If the other party forced him to take out his bank account, then all his bank cards would be exposed. A man who was never content was like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. As long as one was human, there was no one who wasn't greedy. As long as someone saw money, they would definitely think of a way to take it out for him. This was 100% certain. Meng Zhizhong knew this even if he used his but to think. However, just as Meng Zhizhong was racking his brains to think of his bank account number, Su Yun suddenly interrupted his thoughts. Although Su Yun wasn't talking to him, the content of his words still made Meng Zhizhong's heart beat faster. The flesh on his cheeks began to tremble. Captain Chiu, during the Warring States period, Feng Kuang said to Meng Chongjun that a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows to avoid death. He came up with a plan and did 3 big things for Meng Chongjun, strengthening Meng Chongjun's position. Su Yun, this cunning rabbit has 3 burrows has been used incisively and vividly by people. When it comes to saving money, people have the same mentality. It's absolutely impossible for them to save all their money in one bank card or put all their money in one financial management company. Why? Chiu Hang naturally understood Su Yun's intention. If all the money is in one financial management company, if the company collapses, then it means that all the money can't be recovered. Su Yun, as for why people would save money in different bank cards, that's even more important. For example, in this situation, if the other party has several bank cards, then it's feasible. After Su Yun finished speaking, Chiu Hang nodded. Yes, it was indeed feasible. He turned to Meng Zhizhong. Leader, you heard that too, right? A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows. If you can't remember your bank card number, then look for your card bag. I can help you look through them one by one. As for the password, if you say you forgot it, then even if I believe you, my brothers won't be able to believe you. Meng Zhizhong gritted his teeth and glanced at Su Yun. This young man was really hateful. After hearing what they said, he already thought of a bank account with $200 and $800 million. But even if he took out this money now, the other party would definitely not be satisfied. He would definitely ask him to use other accounts to make up the remaining tens of millions. However, there was one thing that Meng Zhizhong was helpless about. His Swiss bank accounts did not have any small accounts that only had tens of millions in them. All of them had hundreds of millions in them. He had been greedy for too much money. Even the largest sum was over 100 million. Many little drops made a mickle. After so many years, he had naturally become a tycoon whose wealth could rival that of a country. 300 million US dollars, I'll give it to you. Meng Zizhong gritted his teeth and said, I believe that, Captain, you are also a person of status. You will not go back on your words. I will give you money, and you will guarantee that my son and I will be safe. Let's settle this deal, shall we? Yes, sure. My deal with you is as such. My $300 million, and your son's $1 million ransom, Qiu Heng said. Also, my brothers will each get $100,000 for their hard work. I don't want more from you. Round it up, $320 million. I will watch you transfer the money. Okay. Meng Zizhong gritted his teeth and said. Right, there's one more thing, Qiu Heng said. You should also redeem this cruise ship, right? Although this cruise ship is worth at least $1 billion, I only want $50 million from you. Also, shouldn't you also pay a ransom for the heads of all the people on this ship? Their heads? Meng Zizhong's jaw dropped. What did this mean? They also want. Qiu Heng nodded. Captain, don't forget our identity. We are pirates. If you fall into our hands and want to leave without paying a price, you will break our rules. Okay. Meng Zizhong took a deep breath. But that's their own business. You should ask them for the money. I have no obligation to help them pay the ransom, right? As expected of someone who is stingy, the richer they are, Mo Tai said disdainfully. You can't even bear to fork out such a small amount of money. Meng Zizhong's face darkened and he didn't say anything. Of course, he didn't want to be taken advantage of. Captain, you are a man of status. Don't be calculative with us over such a small amount. Qiu Heng had already opened his lion's mouth. He couldn't hold back anymore. $400 million. My Beijing clan will escort you out of this place. I guarantee that you won't be harassed by other pirates. This condition is not bad, right? Everyone's eyes were focused on Meng Zizhong. If you don't agree, I can only ask all of you on this ship to leave me a finger as a souvenir. I believe that these people will put this debt on your head. Qiu Heng laughed. Moreover, after we leave, no one can guarantee that there won't be others eyeing this fat piece of meat. What do you think? Mo Tai also beat around the bush. There are more than 500 pirate gangs in this area. There are 3 to 5 of them that are similar to ours. $400 million. You guarantee that I will leave this godforsaken place safely. Meng Zizhong suddenly exploded with wealth. Captain Qiu, you have to keep your word. With money came confidence. Meng Zizhong's eyes were red. He didn't feel that he was in a passive position anymore. Money could make the devil turn millstones. Since the other party wanted money, then he would use money to smash them to death. Use money to make them his slaves. Based on what? Based on his wealth. Qiu Heng and Su Yun were both shocked by Meng Zizhong's sudden outburst. Qiu Heng nodded. No one would say no to money. Okay, deal. $400 million. According to the current exchange rate, it was equivalent to 2.5 billion renminbi. 2.5 billion renminbi. Even if it was the salary of a high-ranking official, it would take him 34,723 years to earn that much without eating or drinking. Meng Zizhong only blinked his eyes in pain when he took out the money to buy his life. Su Yun definitely wouldn't let this kind of scum go. Meng, 300 million. You and Captain Qiu have settled the deal. Su Yun suddenly spoke. Isn't it time to talk to me? Meng Zizhong was stunned. He stared at Su Yun. What's there to talk to you about? I have already settled the deal with your captain. You don't have the right to speak here. Then, Meng Zizhong looked at Qiu Heng. What he meant was, I agreed to give you the money. You should settle such a small matter for me. Otherwise, why would I give you $400 million for nothing? How many years would he have to be greedy for this amount of money? Qiu Heng didn't think much of it. Leader, I haven't smelled anything fishy yet. Meng Zhizhong took a deep breath and quickly logged into a Swiss bank account on the computer. There was a lot of money in this account, 300 million US dollars, 100 million euros, more than 200 million yuan, and 3 billion yen. This was just an account. After a few exchanges, it was more than enough to pay Qiu Hang the ransom of $400 million. After the ransom was transferred to Qiu Heng's account, Meng Zhizhong was even more confident. He slammed the table. "Captain Qiu, can I make my request now?" "Sure, just say it." Qiu Heng agreed readily. Meng Zhizhong glared at Su Yun. "I don't like this guy right now. I want him dead." "How black-hearted." Su Yun sneered. It was precisely because of a few words that he had said that he had made him pay a huge sum of money. Now, he wanted him dead. Lin Gu was furious when he heard this. "Who do you think you are?" Meng Zhizhong was furious. "I want this guy dead too." "Leader, are you mistaken? The money you gave me is only for the ransom of the people on your ship. You didn't ask me to help you kill someone." Qiu Heng laughed when he heard this. Meng Zhizhong had already spent a lot of money. He didn't care about burning another 1 or 200 million. Money made people willful. Even Meng Zhizhong, who was over 60 years old, became willful. "How much? Name your price." Chapter 1635. Meng Zhizhong's words instantly caused a huge change in the atmosphere on the deck. Everyone could not help but look at Meng Zhizhong. This was another opportunity for Meng Zhizhong to ask for an exorbitant price. Even Qiu Heng's own men wanted to know how much Su Yun was worth in his eyes. The bounty on Su Yun's head was 60 million USD, while Qiu Heng's head was only 77 million USD. Although Meng Zhizhong did not know about the existence of these things, since he dared to say such a thing, he was already prepared to take out another Swiss bank account and throw it away. Hee hee. Qiu Heng let out a faint laugh. His laughter was faintly discernible in the sea breeze. He knew very well that everyone was waiting for his answer. This was indeed a huge temptation, but how much was Su Yun's head worth? Qiu Heng really could not calculate this. Lin Gu looked around vigilantly. Although he had completely trusted Qiu Heng before, when faced with the temptation of money, he still clearly understood that Qiu Heng was a pirate after all. He could turn against them for money at any time. This was something that was not surprising, so he was prepared to deal with anything. Mo Tai and Lin Gu were the same. They also looked at Su Yun cautiously. He was also waiting for the captain's orders. If Qiu Heng really felt that Su Yun's head was worth more money, he would definitely not mind being the vanguard of this conflict. He was also very clear that if he wanted to take down Su Yun, he would have to deal with Lin Gu first. At this moment, everyone had their own thoughts, and the atmosphere had unknowingly become tense. This was the result that Meng Zhizhong wanted to see. If he could use some ill-gotten money to make these damn pirates kill each other, then it would be worth it to him. It would be so satisfying. He was willing to spend this money. Qiu Heng's laughter was unfathomable, and Su Yun could not help but let out a helpless laugh. Although the sound was very faint and had long been covered by the sea breeze, it was still heard by everyone who was paying attention to everything. No one knew what Su Yun's laughter meant. Perhaps only Qiu Heng could understand the meaning behind Su Yun's laughter. He then laughed loudly, his laughter piercing through the night sky and rippling over the Pacific Ocean. After a burst of laughter, Qiu Heng's tone became calm again. "As expected of a leader, you really have a way of doing things. What a good state your price." "I'm really tempted." Meng Zhizhong was stunned. He did not understand what Qiu Heng's words meant. "That's right, state your price. You don't need to talk to me about the rest. As long as it's suitable, I'll transfer the money to you." Right now, Meng Zhizhong only hoped that the pirate leader could quickly kill this guy that he disliked. If it weren't for this guy's indirect attacks, perhaps the pirate leader would not have cheated him of so much money. "I want to state my price, but after thinking for a long time, I still can't decide how much is suitable." Qiu Heng said, "In my eyes, Mr. Su Yun is priceless. So, leader, please don't make things difficult for me, or I'll fall out with you. Priceless? Humph. Meng Zizhong sneered in his heart. This guy's appetite is really big. He still wants to test my tolerance. Good. Let's see how long you can pretend. 50 million USD. I'll give you another 50 million USD. Kill this guy for me. Meng Zizhong's attitude of throwing money away was really amazing. 50 million US dollars. Even his son, who had always treated money like dirt, was dumbfounded by this. How many girls could he pick up with this amount of money? How many luxury cars could he buy? Was his father crazy? Why was he angry with this guy? Similarly, 50 million US dollars was nothing but a joke in the eyes of the Beijing clan. Everyone burst into laughter. 50 million USD? What kind of joke was this? You. What are you laughing at? Meng Zizhong was annoyed by their laughter. He didn't know if he had offered too much or too little. 50 million USD? Mo Tai spat in disdain. You have the nerve to ask? Come, I'll show you something. As he spoke, Mo Tai took out a thick stack of craft paper from the large pocket of his windbreaker. This was the bounty of all the people in this area, with a bounty of more than 30 million USD. Mo Tai took out the bounty posters of Su Yun and Lin Gu and threw them in front of Meng Zizhong. Meng Zizhong was stunned when he saw this. After a while, he came back to his senses and realized that this was a bounty poster. When he saw the number on it, he was completely dumbfounded. It turned out that this person's head was originally worth 60 million, but he wanted to buy it for 50 million. No wonder he was being laughed at by others. Seeing that Meng Zizhong had understood, Mo Tai snatched the poster back. Think carefully before you speak, leader. 100 million. Meng Zizhong, who was already dizzy from shame, suddenly shouted, I offer 100 million. Kill him. Su Yun was really speechless. This big greed was really willing to invest in him. 100 million USD. This was a sum of money that most people wouldn't even see in their entire lives. Yet, he spent it on him just like that. This price was really high. Putting aside whether Chiu Hang was tempted, at least Mo Tai and his subordinates' eyes lit up. They were indeed tempted. The atmosphere at the scene quieted down again. Everyone's eyes were focused on Chiu Hang again. However, this time, Chiu Hang didn't smile. His expression was very serious. Could it be that he was tempted? Lin Gu had already subconsciously stood beside Su Yun. However, Su Yun looked completely indifferent, as if he didn't believe that Chiu Hang would do anything to him. However, the temptation of 100 million USD was quite huge for anyone. Even Chiu Hang, the captain of the Beijing clan, would be tempted by 100 million USD. Humans were greedy animals. No one could be free from greed. 100 million. Chiu Hang finally opened his mouth to everyone's expectations. Indeed, it's quite a lot. But have you ever thought that I'm asking for 300 million for your cheap life? Do you think that the value of the person that I, Chiu Hang, admire can't even compare to your cheap life? Chiu Hang's words were beyond everyone's expectations. Everyone was shocked. No one expected Chiu Hang to say that. For the first time, Chiu Hang changed the way he addressed Su Yun. Brother Su is one of the few people I've met in my life who can be called a hero. I don't want to emphasize it a second time. Brother Su is priceless in my eyes. His voice was still calm and indifferent, but it revealed endless majesty. All of his subordinates were filled with respect for him and Su Yun. The deck was so quiet that only the whistling of the sea breeze could be heard. Meng Zizhong clenched his fists tightly and almost crushed his teeth. He didn't know where his stubbornness came from, but he actually blurted out, 500 million USD. This bombshell blew up the entire deck. 500 million. Who could bear it? He didn't believe that he couldn't smash a pirate boss to death with money. However, he didn't understand one thing. If Chiu Hang wanted his money, he didn't even need to use Su Yun as a bargaining chip. He only needed to crazily smash him again and again. Using his son, Meng Chunxing, as a bargaining chip would definitely earn him more money than using Su Yun. Qiu Hang completely ignored Meng Zhizhong's words. Even if he shouted 10 billion, he wouldn't waver. He believed that Su Yun would want to know more than him how much money this guy had embezzled. Therefore, he didn't need to do anything. Su Yun would naturally teach him a lesson. Chapter 1636. Su Yun knew very well that Qiu Hang would not refute him. He also knew that Qiu Hang understood these things. As for how much Meng Zhizhong embezzled, Su Yun had to find out. However, he did not want Qiu Hang to take all the money. This was the hard-earned money of Hua Xia's taxpayers. Meng 300 million, you seem to have found the wrong person to challenge. Su Yun said calmly, I'll give you a chance. Take out all the money you embezzled. I'm not as gentlemanly as Captain Qiu, and I won't give you too much of a chance to defend yourself. If you want your son to be tortured, then cooperate. Meng Chunxing, who had just been released by Mo Tai, was once again picked up by Lin Guo like a chicken. Meng Chunxing, who had no strength, could only be manipulated. He now realized that the women who were manipulated by him in the past were not because of his strength, but because of the money in his pocket. Otherwise, with his weak body, he would only be manipulated. Captain, what is the meaning of this? Meng Zhizhong looked at Qiu Hang for help. You said that if I give you the money, you will guarantee that I will leave this place safely. Now that someone is threatening me, are you not going to do anything? Qiu Hang was confused. He looked at Meng Zhizhong, then looked at his subordinates. Did I say that? Did I guarantee it? Of course you guaranteed it. Meng Zhizhong said. You said it yourself. I said it myself. After we leave, no one can guarantee that there won't be other people who will take a fancy to you. Qiu Hang said. Qiu Hang said, you were the one who offered me $400 million to ensure that you would leave this damned place safely. That's right. Meng Zhizhong said. I said it. But you said, deal. Qiu Hang said, the deal I said was a deal between the money you gave me and these chips. It was not a deal where I wanted to guarantee that you will be safe. Leader, you are thinking too much. I didn't mean that. You are thinking too much. You. Meng Zhizhong's blood rushed to his head. He almost vomited blood. That's right, why didn't he think of that? The other party was a pirate. It was normal for them to go back on their word. He was actually stupid enough to make a deal with a pirate. It was simply unreasonable. The heavens had really opened their eyes. Today they actually made him fall into such a dilemma. Retribution, retribution. Even Meng Zhizhong himself felt that this retribution was really too ruthless. Su Yun turned around and gave Meng Chunxing a resounding slap. Meng Chunxing was completely drunk from the slap. There were no signs that he was going to beat someone up. Shouldn't he at least let them be prepared? This slap also shocked Meng Zhizhong. Seeing his son being slapped, there was nothing he could do. This demon called Su Yun in front of him was even more abominable than their captain. If your dad continues to change the topic, I'll continue to whip you. Su Yun laughed and said, I have nothing to do anyway. As soon as he finished speaking, another slap was delivered. Su Yun's hand was strong, so this slap was especially loud. On the other hand, the delicate Meng Chunxing did not have much ability to resist. Blood flowed from the corners of his mouth after two casual slaps. Meng Chunxing's previous domineering aura had long been stabbed into his bladder by the knife that Su Yun had stuffed into his mouth. Now, he did not even dare to let out a fart as Su Yun slapped him. Dad, save me. One of the things that Meng Chunxing was best at these years was to ask for help from his father. Every time Meng Chunxing encountered something that he couldn't control, he would ask his father for help, and his father would always be able to solve the problem for him. But this time, it was impossible. This time, his father really could not help him. His father could not even protect himself. Poor parents. No matter how difficult it was for Meng Zhizhong, he could only grit his teeth and swallow it down. Tell me, what do you want? I just want to see how capable you are. Su Yun said, I really want to know how much a generous person like you can covet in this lifetime. Isn't your appetite too big? Meng Zhizhong sneered. Is it big? Su Yun asked in return. What about yourself? Just as Meng Zhizhong was rendered speechless by this rhetorical question, Su Yun waved his hand and gave Lin Gu a look. Lin Gu placed Meng Chuanqing's head on the deck with a clang, as if he would listen to Su Yun's orders at any time. As long as Su Yun gave the word, he would chop off this head and feed it to the dogs. What are you doing? What are you doing? Let go of me! Meng Chuanqing's struggle was futile in front of Lin Gu. Lin Gu only needed to exert a little force in his hand that was strangling Meng Chuanqing's throat, and this fellow would choke and be unable to say a word. This was the only child of the Meng family. Even if Meng Zhizhong had to sell everything he had, he would not let the only child of the Meng family be destroyed. He had been an official for so many years. Why would he be greedy? It was probably only 30% for himself. The majority of it was for his descendants. Little did he know that his descendants had their own fortune. Everything he did was simply harming his descendants. Meng Chunsheng could be considered a genius. At the age of 2, he was proficient in the multiplication table. At the age of 3, he could recite thousands of poems and songs. At the age of 4, he was good at calligraphy. However, when he was 5 years old, Meng Zhizhong began to amass wealth wantonly. When a child realized that he didn't have to do anything at all and could obtain a better life than his peers, Meng Chunsheng was crippled from then on. By the time Meng Chunsheng was a teenager, he had become a silver gun tyrant who was idle every day. He drove a BMW sports car without a license plate that cost more than 1 million yuan. He was obsessed with major nightclubs every day and befriended a group of officials and rich second generations. His favorite thing to do was to find girls in bars who did not have self-respect. After getting them drunk, he would take them to the hotel and have fun with them. From then on, Meng Chunsheng had fallen to the point of no return. He had caused several big problems in the country, but they were all settled by Meng Zhizhong. However, the domestic laws were too strict after all. There was no other way, so Meng Zhizhong sent him abroad. He thought that Meng Chunsheng would be more well-behaved after he was sent out, but he didn't expect that this guy would become even worse after he went abroad. He smoked marijuana, drank too much, and got into fights. He didn't lose to foreigners in any way. Meng Zhizhong had long given up on reforming his son. He only hoped that he could be a parasite without worrying about food and clothing for the rest of his life. It would be good if he could give him a capable grandson. Now, seeing his son being trampled under the feet of evil people, Meng Zhizhong felt like his heart was being cut by a knife. Okay, I can give you all my savings in the Swiss bank. Are you satisfied? But if you hurt my son, then I won't have a penny. I would rather die than give you a penny. After that, Meng Zhizhong took out his card bag. There were 20 to 30 different kinds of bank cards. There were 7 to 8 gold cards from the Swiss bank. Su Yun waved his hand and motioned for Lin Gu to let him go. Seeing that his son could finally breathe normally, Meng Zhizhong logged into his accounts one by one. There were 33 accounts. There were Huaxia ICBC, Credit Suisse, German Bavarian Bank, Qatar National Bank, and Scotiabank. The total value of all these bank accounts added up to tens of billions of yuan. Such a greedy person was actually a fish that escaped the net in Huaxia's anti-corruption campaign. How could Su Yun not be ruthless in his heart? He could not imagine how many people like Meng Zhizhong were out there. These people took the huge amount of money that was originally used to develop the country and enjoyed a luxurious life. It was not excessive to give them the death penalty. Under Su Yun's coercion, Meng Zhizhong transferred all the money to Huaxia ICBC's bank account. Originally, Meng Zhizhong was laughing in his heart. If all the money was in Huaxia's account, it would not be as convenient for him to transfer the money in one go as it was in Credit Suisse. A huge amount like Huaxia needed to be applied for. But he never thought that Su Yun's purpose was not to take the money for himself. He actually wanted to donate it. Chapter 1637. On the charity donation page of the online bank, Su Yun did not hesitate to donate all of Meng Zhizhong's assets to various major charity associations, various charitable foundations, various projects, various Red Cross societies. Although the Red Cross societies had lost their credibility because of Gua Junyu, Su Yun felt that even if he threw the money out, it would be 100 times better than leaving it in Meng Zhizhong's pocket. Even if there were parasites and rats in these charities, and there were also those who dared to reach out and stuff their pockets, there were still very few people who were so heartless. Most people still understood where they should reach out and where they should not reach out. Although it was impossible to guard against despicable people, with so much money, most of it would still be used for charity. Those who benefited from it would be considered a reward for buying a coffin. He also wished that these greedy, shameless people, and hypocrites who would use charity funds would all be able to live a carefree life in the new year. It would not be the 15th day of the first month. It was not a joke to hit a tiger with the mace in his hand. He would be able to beat the sh*t out of these bastards. Those who dared to reach out and be greedy would spend the rest of their lives in fear and anxiety. Their lives would become boring in an instant. Of course, Su Yun did all these online donations behind everyone's backs. Otherwise, Meng Zhizhong would definitely break down if he saw it. Moreover, Su Yun did not know if Qiu Hang would interfere in this matter. Su Yun did not want so much money to fall into the hands of a pirate. Regardless of whether Qiu Hang was loyal enough, regardless of whether Qiu Hang was chivalrous enough, a thief was a thief, and this money could not fall into his hands. Therefore, Su Yun's actions were done very quickly. Very quickly, he spent tens of billions of yuan. This feeling of spending a lot of money was very satisfying. It was probably going to be the headlines of Hua Xia's newspapers tomorrow. Major charity organizations received tens of billions of yuan in donations overnight. This was definitely going to be a hot topic, and it would also stimulate the hearts of the people in the country to do charity. Of course, doing charity was not to help those fake beggars on the streets. They should be helping those who were worth saving, those children who had dropped out of school, orphans, and those who were born with diseases. That was what they should be doing. When Su Yun was done with the task at hand, Meng Zhizhong almost collapsed to the ground. He looked at the donation records one by one and almost collapsed. Qiu Hang, who knew about Su Yun's actions, was also so shocked that his mouth could not close. What kind of heart did he have to treat such a huge sum of money like dirt? Qiu Hang took a deep breath. He still couldn't understand. He really couldn't understand. But Su Yun had already done it, but it was already over. What was done could not be undone. What's done is done. What's there to complain about? This money can't be recovered once it's out. This is the disadvantage of the internet age. Qiu Hang felt the pinch. It was such a huge sum of money. But this made him have a whole new level of respect for Su Yun. People with this kind of courage were really rare. Even he himself did not have this kind of courage. His admiration for Su Yun had turned into admiration. Meng Zhizhong had used up all his family's wealth to save his and his son's pathetic lives. This might be a more severe punishment for them. The two of them were already used to living extravagantly. How could they continue living without money? Perhaps they still had a house to sell, a car to sell, paintings of famous people to pawn off, and gold and silver jewelry to exchange for some RMB. But these couldn't be compared to what they had lost in one night. Those things could only be used as a temporary emergency. It couldn't guarantee that they would have enough food and clothing for the rest of their lives. Meng Zhizhong couldn't feed that parasite for the rest of his life. This was the biggest punishment for them. After this experience, Su Yun and Qiu Hang's relationship seemed to have unknowingly become closer. That night, they drank and chatted until they lost track of time. In the end, they were all drunk. Su Yun and Lin Guo were too happy to have solved a big problem. They also had a new level of trust in Qiu Hang. So, they completely let down their guard and drank until they passed out. Late that night, the drunk Qiu Hang was woken up by his subordinates. It must be something very important to disturb him at such a time. Qiu Hang, who was still in a drunken stupor, was displeased to be disturbed from his dream. He looked at Mo Tai and his his eyes clearly telling them that they'd better give him a satisfactory answer. Otherwise, he wouldn't be happy. Captain, we've been looking for the person you asked us to look for. This time, we seem to have found her, Emotai said. Cho Hang was confused. Who? Who did I ask you to look for? It's the woman Su Yun and the rest are looking for, Emotai said. Cho Hang was instantly energized. He was about to fly into a rage when he heard that. He quickly sat up and pulled Emotai's subordinate to his side. Tell me the details of the situation. Yes. Seeing Cho Hang so anxious, the subordinate was also quite nervous. This is also the news from the informant we planted around Naka. It said that Naka met a dying woman drifting alone at sea. He brought her to his ship. Later, he found out that the person they rescued had special abilities. What nonsense? Cho Heng said. Didn't you say that you found the person Su Yun was looking for? Yes, it's this woman. The subordinate said, this woman is almost exactly the same as described, so the informant is sure. But this is not the point, Captain. The point is that this woman has special abilities. Cho Hang was stunned. Special abilities? What do you mean? She can turn invisible, the subordinate said. Cho Hang almost slapped him. Damn, are you kidding me in the middle of the night? Turn invisible? You've watched too many sci-fi movies. Captain, I know you don't believe it, but this is the truth. The subordinate said, the informant said that as long as this woman doesn't want them to find her, no one can find her. With such a big ship, they can't find her in any corner. And if she wants to show herself, she will appear from a place where there is no one. No one knows how she disappeared. Isn't this a special ability? Turn invisible? Cho Hang was suddenly stunned. It was impossible to turn invisible. This was absolutely against science. But he knew that there was a kind of person who could turn invisible to the extreme. Yes, that was the Shadow Clan. The Shadow Clan could turn invisible to the extreme. Before they were exterminated, they were often called invisible people by ordinary people. Apart from the Shadow Clan, it was absolutely impossible for anyone to do this. But the Shadow Clan had been exterminated. Cho Heng didn't show any mercy this time. He slapped the back of his subordinate's head. Make it sound so strange. Tell them to keep an eye on her. I don't believe that she can disappear into thin air if your eyes don't leave her. This is impossible. There is no invisible person in the world. Tell me after you figure it out. Although Cho Hang still didn't believe it, he couldn't let go of this matter. What if this was true? Could it be that the person Su Yun was looking for was a Shadow Clan member? It was easy to confirm. Cho Hang only needed to explain this matter to Su Yun. But he hadn't decided whether to tell Su Yun about this yet. This was where Cho Hang hesitated. Forget it. Su Yun was sleeping now. Cho Heng didn't want to disturb him. He should think about it carefully. It wouldn't be too late to talk about it tomorrow. Chapter 1638. This news caused Cho Heng to be unable to sleep for the entire night. When Su Yun and Lin Ge both woke up from their hangovers the next day, Cho Heng decided to test the waters and ask them about this matter. This way, he would be able to confirm if the information his subordinates received was true or not. After all, Cho Heng couldn't believe that the shadow race still existed in this world. Perhaps only Su Yun could answer his doubts. With this doubt in mind, Cho Heng ordered his subordinates to prepare a sumptuous breakfast. Su Yun and Lin Ge also decided to thank Cho Heng and leave the ship. Captain Cho, thank you for your hospitality. Su Yun straightforwardly expressed his intentions. I'm very happy to be your friend, but I have other things to do and can't stay for too long. I hope Captain Cho can forgive me. Thank you again for yesterday's matter. I wasted your time. There's no need to thank me. If I can help you with the girl you're looking for, it won't be too late to thank me. Cho Heng smiled and said indifferently, Su Yun, I'm a bit older than you. You don't mind if I call you brother, right? Of course I don't mind. Su Yun was only able to punish greed with Cho Heng's help yesterday. Moreover, Cho Heng didn't fall out with him afterwards. This was out of Su Yun's expectations. It was really a surprise. Pirates like this were rare nowadays. Cho Heng finally brought up the topic. Brother Yun, I think that it's not a wise decision to only rely on the two of you to search for a person in this ocean. You need my help. You need more people to help you find her. Captain Chiu, my brother will remember your help in finding the missing person. Thank you very much, Lin Gu said. However, this is our own business after all. We're too embarrassed to ask for your help. We're really grateful. We'll remember it. Su Yun also smiled. This was indeed a favor they owed Cho Heng. It wasn't wrong for him to remember it. I have no intention of asking for credit. Cho Heng said, Brother Yun, if you really want me to help you, you should give me more information so that I can really help you. Su Yun nodded embarrassedly. Captain Chiu is willing to help me. I don't know how to thank you. How can I ask for anything? Furthermore, I believe Captain Chiu's men are well aware of the person I'm looking for. I'm not sure. Cho Heng suddenly interrupted Su Yun. The information they get is always hearsay. There are some details and key points that I can only confirm from you. Su Yun did not understand what Cho Heng meant and could only say, there are no more details or key points. Looks like Brother Yun still doesn't trust me. Cho Heng faintly said, Of course, I can understand. If I were you, I wouldn't easily tell my most important secret to someone I just met. Since that's the case, I won't hide it from you. My men told me that they found a girl. She matches almost all of the characteristics of the person you're looking for. However, there's one thing that surprised me. Su Yun and Lin Gu looked at Cho Heng expectantly. They did not know what else he would say. What surprised me was that they said the girl had a special ability. Cho Heng continued, she can turn invisible. Cho Heng carefully observed Su Yun and Lin Ji's expressions. Su Yun and Lin Ji's expressions changed drastically. They looked at Cho Heng with the same look of surprise and eagerness. Cho Heng took a deep breath. I know that there's no special ability in this world that can turn someone invisible. However, I know of a race that is especially good at hiding themselves. However, this race has long gone extinct. It's hard for me to believe that there are still people of this race in this world. After pausing for a moment, Cho Heng continued, However, if Brother Yun tells me that there are still people of the shadow race in this world, I think I'll believe you. Because there's no need for you to joke with me. Su Yun stood up excitedly. He really did not think that Cho Heng would be able to find Phantom. Since Cho Heng had already made it clear, there was no point in hiding it anymore. As long as he could see Phantom, everything would be solved. Captain Chiu. It's like this. The girl I'm looking for is a member of the shadow race. Su Yun emphasized, she's the only shadow race member in this world. After receiving Su Yun's affirmation, Cho Heng could no longer remain calm. A shadow race member. If anyone could get a shadow race member to listen to them, that would be a powerful trump card in their hands. He bitterly smiled. It was a pity that this shadow race girl was not discovered by him earlier. Instead, she was found by Naka. Presumably, Naka also knew the importance of a shadow race girl. He had saved her life, so he believed that he would be able to gain the trust of the shadow race girl. Su Yun cared so much about the shadow race girl. If Naka took advantage of this, then he would be in a dominant position. Just think about it. If Naka used his identity as a savior to ask the shadow race girl and Su Yun to deal with him, then the balance between them would be broken. Su Yun's unfathomable strength made Cho Heng unable to figure it out. If a shadow race member wanted to assassinate him, then he would not be able to sleep or eat in peace. All kinds of unfavorable factors made Cho Heng unable to remain calm. Captain Chiu, you found her? Su Yun was certain of this. If Cho Heng did not find Phantom, then he would not have said something like the shadow race. Cho Heng was silent, not knowing how to answer. He seemed to regret saying this so directly. But now that things had come to this, he clearly had no way out. That's right. My people found her. Cho Heng said, "It's just that. She's not in my hands right now." Su Yun and Lin Gu said in unison, "Then where is she?" Cho Heng looked at their anxious eyes and did not hide anything. On Naka's ship. Seeing Su Yun and Lin Ge's slightly anxious expressions, Cho Heng decided to be a good person to the end and continued to comfort them. "I arranged for my informant in the Sharks gang to bring out a message. This girl was drifting alone in the sea. Her situation was very bad, so she boarded the ship to seek Naka's help. And it was only after she boarded the ship that they realized her special ability. I believe Naka should have figured out her identity. Captain Cho, I can't thank you enough." Su Yun cupped his fists and said, "We will take care of the rest ourselves. When I solve this matter, I will definitely bring her to thank you in person." Su Yun couldn't wait to find Naka to ask for her. Cho Heng's disappointment was indescribable. He could only sigh that Naka's luck was better than his. He could only be considered to have God's help to have such good luck. "In that case, I won't force you to stay," Cho Heng said. "However, I have a reminder, Brother Yun. Naka and I are old acquaintances." Forget it, I won't say it. After all, my subjective consciousness is too strong." "I know what you want to say. I will be careful." Su Yun, thank you for your reminder. At this time, Cho Heng's men and Lin Gu had already prepared their cruise ship. Su Yun didn't say anything more and quickly boarded the ship and left. He didn't say much goodbye because he would really bring her to thank Cho Heng after finding Phantom. If it weren't for Cho Heng, how could Su Yun find Naka's head? The farther he was from the Sharks, the farther he was from Phantom. Looking at Su Yun leaving, Emotai looked at Cho Heng in confusion. "Captain, aren't we sending them to Naka's side?" "We can't not send them," Cho Heng said. "Since we can't rope him in, we can sell him a big favor. At least we can make him not help Naka deal with me, right?" Besides, Naka might not be able to use his unique opportunity to persuade Su Yun to help him. Emotai nodded as if he understood. "We will also follow from afar and keep track of the situation." Cho Heng said, "Let the Shark's informant brothers be more careful." "Yes." Chapter 1639. During this period of time, Su Yun and Lin Gu could not be said to have gained nothing on this ocean. At least, they had basically figured out the sphere of influence of the major pirate gangs. Lin Gu had drawn these on a sea map that only he could understand. Therefore, they had a basic understanding of the location of the main island controlled by the Sharks. The Phantom had fallen into the hands of the Sharks. Whether it was good or bad, it would make Su Yun uneasy. Naka did not have a good image in Su Yun's mind because he already had a preconceived notion. The Sharks were the most evil gang in this place. Compared to the benevolent and righteous ways of the Beluga clan, they were even worse. Naka had always been unconvinced by Cho Heng, and a large part of it was caused by this. Naka felt that the world was as black as the crows. Since they were all pirates, they should not pretend to be some chivalrous hero. He looked down on Cho Heng, thinking that Cho Heng was hypocritical, pretentious, and a villain who dared to do things but did not dare to admit it. Cho Heng also looked down on Naka, thinking that Naka was a guy without principles, bottom line, integrity, and demeanor. Pirates should have pirate rules, not no rules at all. There was a saying that even thieves had morals. Although it was not appropriate to use it on them, they should be able to use it, right? There were too many unscrupulous stories about Naka. Pirates had the basic rules of pirates. They were not on the same level as the petty thieves on land. The bandits on land could be a spontaneous organization among the people. As long as a few brothers did not learn well, they could discuss and pick up a few big knives. The road was opened by them, the trees were planted by them, and they could do business. However, pirates were definitely not that simple. Some of the things that Naka did sometimes were like petty thieves, without rules. The origins of pirates were often strange. For example, there was an organization in the United Nations called the Knights of Malta. This was not a country, but it was an organization that enjoyed the treatment of a country. It was a remnant of the Crusades in the Middle Ages. This Knights of Malta had been pirates in the later part of the Middle Ages. Of course, their pirates were called religious pirates, which meant that they did not touch the ships of Christians. If you were the ship of Jesus, then they would fuck you. This was something that had been severed from mainstream society. Therefore, one must not treat pirates as a kind of sea robber spontaneously produced by the people. He was a product of the mainstream society's rupture. Cho Hang agreed with this, but Naka did not. Because Naka's shark gang was a kind of spontaneous sea bandits, they would even spend most of their time on the islands instead of wandering in the ocean. This might be the biggest difference between Naka and Cho Hang. In a sense, Cho Hang was a pirate who abided by the Roberts Code, while Naka was more like a bandit. Some people did not know what the Roberts Code was. This was a long story. Pirate society was different from what ordinary people imagined. For example, it was a very well-behaved society. Pirate ships had their own power generation. The most famous one was the Golden Age of Pirates. There was something called the Roberts Code. Robert was also a great pirate. He set a lot of rules, so orthodox pirates followed the Roberts Code. For example, everyone had an equal right to vote in all daily affairs. Those who stole their companion's property would be abandoned on deserted islands. It was strictly forbidden to gamble on the ship. It was not allowed to bring children on board. Those who seduced women would die. Those who fled would die, and so on were all rules that pirates had to follow. These rules did not exist on Naka's ship. Naka would even bring women on board to do all kinds of outrageous things. This was a rather shameful behavior of pirates. Since ancient times, in large harbors or coastlines where ships could stop, there were often a group of women who had fallen out of their way to work as meat sellers. Most of their customers, except for the men on the long-line merchant ships who had been sailing for a long time and finally saw women on the shore, were the well-behaved pirates. Of course, there were also some rules that were slowly eliminated. It was better to say that they were eliminated than that they were broken. For example, in order to prevent fire, no open fire was allowed in the cabin after 8 o'clock in the evening. If you wanted to drink, you had to drink on the deck. This was because the fire extinguishers were much more advanced than before. Cho Heng's men respected him, not because of his pressure. He was able to get to his current position because of everyone's election. He boarded this pirate ship because the old captain followed the Roberts Code. There was another feature in this democratic system. The captain did not have much dignity. His men could rush up and grab his wine. When Cho Hang first joined the Beluga Whale Regiment, their ship was more orthodox. In addition to the captain, there was also a serious role called the helmsman, also called the quartermaster. Such a person had a lot of power. For example, he had the power to distribute the spoils, distribute food and wine, deal with some conflicts between pirates, and arbitrate disputes. Before Cho Hang took over, he also served as the helmsman. Because the old captain thought highly of him, he was given such an important position. It could be said that in addition to the daily battles, he was the highest leader on the ship. So much so that he still managed everything by himself. After Cho Hang took over, Mo Tai was supposed to assume this role. However, due to Cho Heng's authority and the fact that he was already used to doing all this, Mo Tai was nominally the helmsman, but in reality, Cho Hang had the final say in everything. Although Cho Hang felt that this kind of centralization of power was somewhat against the rules, he could only sigh that this was an inevitable change in the development of the times. Regarding the dictatorship of pirates, it was necessary to talk about Naka. Putting aside Naka's background as a mountain bandit, his pirate ship was more like the merchant ships of the 17th and 18th centuries that were under the protection of the law. They were also merchant ships that sailed on the ocean. That's right, you didn't read wrong. It was a merchant ship. At that time, the merchant ship was definitely a dictatorship of the captain. Not only could he arbitrarily deduct the crew's wages, but he also did something to the food. He ate and drank so much that the crew did not have enough to eat. This was very normal. Moreover, the captain also had the power to punish the crew at will. It was just a beating, and he could beat them to death. For many people, if you wanted to resist, if you wanted to interfere with the captain's power to punish the crew, the captain could directly determine that your behavior was called rebellion, and you would be hanged ashore. Most people could only see the surface of things. In fact, many things were different from what they imagined. On the pirate ship, which was originally filled with the smell of blood, there was a peaceful atmosphere. On the merchant ship, which was supposed to be a bright universe, was filled with the smell of blood. This was the maritime era of those years. The products left over from these eras still exist today, and they have been changing all the time. Although Naka was not a merchant ship, he still used the method of the dictatorial world on the merchant ship. All the power was in his hands. He could do whatever he wanted, but he didn't know that this method would destroy him sooner or later. Cho Hang, on the other hand, hoped that he could follow the final law and not let the Beluga clan go down the path of inevitable destruction. He admired the old captain and the current white-haired father because they were all rule-abiding people. Therefore, he would definitely be a rule-abiding person. These were two different paths of development, and there was bound to be conflict. Su Yun could get the treatment of a guest on Cho Heng's ship, but he directly broke into Naka's territory. He didn't know what was waiting for him. Cho Hang ordered people to follow him because he was worried about the unknown. Chapter 1640. Naka's life was completely different from Cho Heng's. Su Yun didn't see a single woman on Cho Heng's ship, but Naka kept a few beautiful women in his lair. Sometimes, when he went out to sea for a long time, he would take 2 women with him. Just this point alone showed the difference between him and Cho Heng. Women are absolutely not allowed on a pirate ship. This is reality, not a Hollywood movie. There's a blonde beauty next to the pirate leader? Nonsense. There are absolutely no women on the ship. This logic is too simple. Think about it. In such a long and boring sailing life, women must be the scarcest resource on the ship. With so many pairs of hungry eyes staring at her, if a woman boarded the ship, she would only need to cast a coquettish glance at someone or speak softly to someone. Once that kind of jealousy arose, it would immediately lead to a fight or even a civil war on the ship. No one could bear such a risk. Therefore, the only one who dared to do this was Naka. Because then again, he was more like a mountain bandit. He liked to entrench himself on his island most of the time. Apart from his women, there were also other women on his island for his brothers to enjoy, so he could reduce the risk of his personal lust. In most people's minds, once a female captive was caught on board, wouldn't it be followed by all kinds of rape? On Cho Heng's ship, it was absolutely not allowed. Raping a female captive was an unforgivable crime on his ship. This was the same crime as stealing the spoils of war. It would be executed immediately. The existence of women was a very uncertain temptation. Such a fire seed had to be pinched off at the beginning. This was what orthodox pirates would do. Naka's approach was what most people thought. He would bring people back to his island, pick them first, and then throw the rest to his brothers in need. When he was tired of playing with them, he would also throw them to his brothers in need. Both of them were able to control the situation. One of them controlled the situation in principle, while the other controlled the situation through means. Naka's people did not have internal strife because of women. Apart from his dictatorship, it was his method. He would give others things that he was tired of playing with and others had not touched yet. He solved the contradiction in this way. At the end of the day, his actions were all conditional. Returning to the island often was a necessary condition for him to do all of this. Without the support of the island, he did not have the capital to do all this. This was why he was more like a bandit. After all, Su Yun and Lin Gu weren't familiar with this area. Even with a professional captain like Lin Gu steering the ship, it still took them 2 days to get close to the island occupied by the sharks. The territory occupied by the sharks was indeed blessed by the heavens. Their main island was surrounded by 13 small islands, and these islands all had firing points. This was the reason why the Sharks gang was able to establish a solid foundation. Simply put, this place was easy to defend and hard to attack. Even the ancient Magpie realm wasn't willing to send people here to completely wipe them out, because the price was too great. There would definitely be serious sacrifices. When Su Yun and Lin Ji's ship appeared, they immediately received a warning to stop the ship. Otherwise, they would be immediately bombarded. The flexibility of a ship was far from that of a person. If there were really two cannonballs, Su Yun and Lin Gu really didn't have the abilities of those characters in the two-dimensional world. It was impossible for them to split the cannonball in half with a knife, and it was impossible for them to kick the cannonball back. If they really concentrated their firepower, the ship would definitely sink if it was hit. Therefore, Su Yun cooperatively stopped the yacht and used the ship's loudspeaker to explain his identity and origin. Hearing Su Yun's name, which had shocked the Pacific Ocean in a short time, the other party instantly fell silent. They were scared. Soon, Su Yun and Lin Gu received a reply. Someone would personally drive a ship to pick them up. If they wanted to enter the island, they had to dock their ship. They could only enter by taking the other party's ship. This condition sounded unreasonable, but it was very necessary. After all, the shark's lair was an island, not a ship. What if the other party brought a ship of bombs to blow up their island? Therefore, all foreign ships were absolutely not allowed to enter the main island surrounded by these 13 small islands. At the same time, someone had already driven a speedboat to quickly report to Naka. Such important news naturally couldn't be explained with a simple communication. This was a big deal. When Naka heard that Su Yun actually took the initiative to look for him, he was so excited that he almost jumped up. Could it be that this guy couldn't stand the life at sea and came to seek refuge with him? Or was he forced by the White Whale Society and had no choice but to seek refuge with him? In Naka's mind, all his thoughts were that Su Yun had come to seek refuge with him and wanted to join him. This fantasy filled with happiness could indeed excite him. Let's go. I want to personally welcome him. Naka almost used his grandest way to receive this fierce person who wanted to seek refuge and join him. He had absolute strength and believed that if Su Yun joined the sharks, their strength would be like adding wings to a tiger. At this moment, Su Yun and Lin Gu had already boarded the other party's ship and were sailing towards the main island of the sharks. No matter what the other party proposed, Su Yun would agree because he couldn't wait to reach the main island. As long as they reached the island, Su Yun and Lin Gu would be able to determine whether the Phantom was here. They had both come into contact with the Phantom's blood, and if the Phantom saw the two of them coming, she would definitely appear immediately. Su Yun and Lin Ji's heartbeats accelerated as the ship approached bit by bit. Soon, Naka, who came to welcome them, appeared in front of them. Naka got someone to drive a speedboat-style cruise ship. He stood at the bow of the ship and looked anxiously. The moment he saw Su Yun, he beamed with joy. He also loudly reprimanded the men who brought Su Yun here. How can you let my distinguished guest sit on a small boat like yours? Bastard! Immediately bring Mr. Su Yun's ship in. This is my distinguished guest. Distinguished guest. Do you understand? I can give him the right to drive his ship in and out of our island at any time. This greeting gift is really thick. Su Yun looked at this fellow who was not very tall and powerful. To be able to make such a place, he was definitely not a simple person. Mr. Su Yun, I've heard a lot about you. Naka greeted Su Yun in a manner that was full of Lulan temperament. I didn't know that you were suddenly visiting, so I didn't come to welcome you in time. I hope Mr. Su Yun doesn't mind. Naka's politeness was even higher than Chiu Heng's. Su Yun was really not used to his identity in this sea. A big star sought after by tens of thousands of people? I presume you are Captain Naka. I've heard a lot about you. Su Yun also returned the greeting. Quick, get on the boat. I'll show Mr. Su Yun my vast world. Naka proudly showed off. Here, it's all mine. It's all mine. Su Yun and Lin Gu once again changed ships and landed, but Su Yun was not in the mood to visit. Captain Naka, I have something important to ask you. I wonder if you can invite me to your island for a cup of tea? Of course, no problem. Naka was still elated as he replied. He had always wanted to find Su Yun Lai to talk to him. Now, it could be said that he had traveled far and wide to look for Su Yunlai, but now it could be said that he had found Su Yunlai without any effort. He took the initiative to deliver himself to the door. The three of them chatted and laughed as they returned to Nokka's main island. The moment Su Yun and Lin Gu landed, their eyes changed. That's right, they both felt the existence of the phantom. When both of them had this feeling, it meant that this matter was definitely not wrong. Chapter 1641. Su Yun and Lin Gu suppressed the excitement in their hearts. They believed that Phantom would come to find them immediately when he sensed their arrival. However, what surprised Su Yun and Lin Gu was that the two of them were invited by Nokka to his palace-like reception room, and Phantom did not appear. This made Su Yun a little impatient. This was not Phantom's style of doing things. Lin Gu did not know Phantom as well as Su Yun, but from Su Yun's expression, he realized that something was wrong. He quickly prepared to deal with everything at any time. Nokka had always been showing off his strength, from the unique islands he occupied, to his palace-like reception room, to his indestructible ship, and the super combat strength of hundreds of people under him. Nokka's speech could be considered to be a deluge of flowers, a variety of things. In fact, after every sentence he said, there was a test. He was trying to get Su Yun and Lin Gu to join the Sharks gang. As long as they were willing to join, half of his country would be theirs. A simple and easy to understand sentence. I am the boss, and you are the second boss. Because it was Su Yun and Lin Gu who took the initiative to come to him, Nokka believed that there was a 99% chance that this matter would succeed, so there was no pressure to be rejected. Captain. Actually, the two of us came here to ask for a favor. Su Yun finally interrupted Nokka's monologue. No, Nokka should be more like a talk show. I hope Captain Nokka will give me face. When Nokka heard this, he slapped the table on the spot and guaranteed, What do you want? Just say it. As long as I, Nokka, can do it, there will be no problem. After Nokka finished speaking, he was looking forward to Su Yun's request to join the Sharks gang. Then, he would immediately let his brothers fire guns and welcome the number 2 person of the Sharks gang. In this short period of time, there was a saying in the Pacific Ocean, whoever gets Su Yun gets the world. The so-called world was the position of the overlord of the Pacific Ocean. Wasn't that an exaggeration? With Nokka's current strength, after obtaining Su Yun and Lin Gu, he could immediately challenge the White Whale Regiment. He had already made up his mind. As long as Su Yun joined them today, he would bring his men to challenge Cho Hang the next day. He would make the White Whale clan, whose reputation had always surpassed his Sharks clan, admit that they were the true overlords of the seas. Because he still had a Shadow Clan member under his command. That's right. Although the Shadow Clan girl tried to leave and he couldn't stop her, he could only lock her up in the chamber. But, he believed that sooner or later, he would be able to use this Shadow Clan girl. At that time, even if he didn't want to be the overlord of this sea, it would be impossible, right? Just as Nokka was fantasizing that he could get everything right away, he heard Su Yun make another request. I want to see the Shadow Clan member on your island. Su Yun said indifferently, and then said in a very firm tone, I'm sure she's on your island, Captain Nokka. If you have any excuses, you don't have to say any more. Nokka was stunned. What kind of request was this? And what made him panic the most was why Su Yun knew that there was a Shadow Clan member on his island. Why? Could it be that he had God's eyes? Nokka was completely on guard against Su Yun in an instant. What was this called? This was called coming with ill intentions. Su Yun's purpose of coming here made Nokka lose control of his heart. Mr. Su Yun, I treat you like a VIP, Nokka said, but your request seems to be a bit beyond your status, right? This is my territory, my territory. As a guest, you should say what you shouldn't say. I believe you don't need me to say more, right? So, you don't deny it. Lin Gu said, then it's easy. My brother has already explained the purpose of his visit. You just have to say something. Nokka faced this unreasonable request, of course. He wouldn't show any mercy. He wasn't like Cho Hang. Naka cared a lot about his dignity. Now, these two people didn't take him seriously in front of so many of his subordinates. This couldn't be tolerated. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like this? Naka emphasized his identity again. This is my territory. I am the king here. It was rare to see such a self-righteous fellow. With Lin Ge's bad temper, he was about to fall out with him. Su Yun naturally wouldn't clash with Naka without knowing the situation of Phantom. He quickly controlled Lin Ge's emotions and sincerely asked again, "The Shadow Clan girl is my friend. I can feel that she is on your island. Captain Naka, helping others achieve their beauty is accumulating virtue and fortune." Accumulating virtue? Naka relied on his own territory and had enough confidence to admit everything. Yes, that's right. There is a Shadow Clan member on my island, but I saved her from the sea. Whether it's your friend or not, according to the rules of my Sharks gang, the life I saved belongs to me. Hearing Naka's words, Su Yun could roughly guess Phantom's current situation. The needs of the leaders of the major forces in this sea area far exceeded Su Yun's imagination, so Su Yun could conclude that Phantom must not have suffered any harm. Since Naka knew that she was from the Shadow Clan, he should know what kind of benefits it would bring him if he could get the help of such a person. Lin Gu really wanted to go up and slap Naka's face. But because of Su Yun, because of Phantom, he suppressed the anger in his heart. Captain Naka, it's not a glorious thing to force others. Su Yun said, I'm grateful that you saved her, but if you force others to stay and work for you, I'm afraid it's a little. I've done too many disgraceful things. Naka didn't wait for Su Yun to finish and interrupted him. He obviously didn't have Cho Heng's patience. Even in the face of people who wanted to recruit him, he couldn't always remain humble. After tearing off his disguise, Naka no longer had any scruples. He looked at Su Yun and Lin Gu with a sneer. Whether it's that Shadow Clan member or you, I appreciate it very much. I hope you can be my right-hand men by my side. I can treat you as friends and brothers and sisters. Of course, all of this is on the premise that you cooperate with me. What if we don't cooperate with you? Lin Gu couldn't help but speak again. The flesh on Naka's face trembled. Then don't blame me for not being able to accommodate you. I've said it more than once. This is my territory. You can't disobey me in my territory. This overbearing guy really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. So, she disobeyed you, so you forced her to stay on your island? Su Yun still maintained his sobriety. But you haven't given up yet. You want to imprison her until she obeys you. Am I right? Naka snorted. Yes, you're right. Since you know everything, then there's no need to say any more nonsense. Today you only have two choices. First, obey me and be my brother. I can give you everything you want. Since you said that the Shadow Clan girl is your friend, that's even better. You can stay by my side together. After a pause, Naka's excited expression disappeared and he put on an ugly face. Second, you will be like her. You will be locked up by me until you agree to my request. There are only these two paths. I want you to make a choice now. The smile on the corner of Su Yun's mouth was so sharp that Lin Gu could see that he was completely angry. But Su Yun's voice still carried a smile. So, this toast and punishment wine is wine. How can you say that you have to drink it? Of course. Naka answered firmly. The corner of Su Yun's mouth raised slightly, and a wicked smile appeared on his face. But I just don't want to drink. What if I just want to drink a drink? Without waiting for Naka to react to his meaning, Su Yun continued, then I'll have to force Captain Naka to help me drink this cup of punishment wine. Chapter 1642. Just as Su Yun had made it clear that he was about to turn hostile, a dazzling spark suddenly exploded from the distant sea, followed by a deafening explosion that made people's ears ring. No one present was unfamiliar with the sound of artillery fire. They had all experienced it before, so they knew very well what was happening on the distant sea. However, after everyone was shocked, the shelling still did not stop. 2 more dazzling fireballs rose in the distance, and the sound of the explosion made Naka's people panic. Naka also locked his gaze on Su Yun, but Su Yun really wouldn't take the blame for him. He really didn't know what was going on. Captain Naka, it seems like you've offended a lot of people. Su Yun, this has nothing to do with me. I only want the person I'm looking for. As for who is shelling you, wanting your head or your territory, that has nothing to do with me. Since I happen to encounter this, I can only take advantage of the situation. Su Yun's meaning was very clear. He would not let go of this opportunity. If Naka wanted to deal with foreign enemies, he would not have the time to deal with them. If Naka wanted to deal with them, without a battle commander, who knew if he would be attacked. No matter how easy it was to defend and hard to attack, there was still a possibility of being broken through. It was just like the Tiger Mountain in the novels and movies. There was only one path, and it was easy to defend but difficult to attack. 5 plum blossom villages, 27 bunkers, and an underground passage that allowed planes to fly, were still destroyed. This meant that there was no 100% safe place. Of course, Naka wouldn't let others fight at the door and be a coward, but he couldn't let Su Yun and Lin Gu ignore it. Su Yun, let's make a deal. This time, you help me resist the enemy. After I retreat, I'll immediately take you to see the person you want to see. My place is not something that ordinary people can figure out in a short period of time. Even if I let you go and find someone now, I'm afraid you won't be able to find it. When the time comes, we'll fall out. Why don't we find a peaceful solution now? Naka's words really made some sense. It was indeed worth Su Yun's consideration. This was Naka's place. He probably wouldn't be able to find where Phantom was imprisoned in a short period of time. If what Naka said was true, then it might really be a good choice. I know that you may not believe me, but I can assure you that I will definitely fulfill my promise to you. Naka said, moreover, I can confidently tell you that no one can find the person I locked up except for myself. You don't have to take the risk. My conditions are enough. All right. Su Yun really didn't need to take the risk of gambling. If he couldn't find Phantom after completely falling out with Naka, then the matter would be directly deadlocked. He might as well do him a favor and help him deal with his external troubles. Whether he meant what he said or not, there was at least a 50% chance. Naka smiled again. Good. Then let me see your fighting strength. Show some momentum. Ha ha ha, if my Sharks gang can have the help of the 2 of you, then it will be like adding wings to a tiger. I want those who dare to provoke me to die without a burial ground. Naturally, Su Yun and Lin Gu were unwilling to do so. However, since things had come to this point, they could only take one step at a time. Captain. Not good. Just as Naka was about to rush out with the 2 generals to give the enemy a warning, one of his subordinates almost rolled and crawled in front of Naka. His face was full of panic and loss, and he stuttered and spoke incoherently. Coupled with the background of gunfire in the distance, this scene was quite harmonious. It's the white whale. The subordinate's face was pale. Captain, what should we do? You tell me clearly. Naka picked up his subordinate. What white whale? Cho Heng. White Whale Regiment. Naka's mind went blank. White Whale Regiment. For so many years, although he and Cho Heng of the White Whale Regiment didn't see eye to eye, they had never really had any big conflicts, because they knew the price of conflict very well. But today, the White Whale Regiment actually attacked his nest directly. What was the reason for this? Naka really couldn't understand. Their evenly matched collision would only benefit the ancient magpie world who had always wanted to wipe them out. Once this peace treaty, without a contract, was broken, it meant that the Sharks could no longer turn a blind eye to the White Whale Regiment's people when they met in the future. The 2 sides would have to fight to the death. To him and Cho Heng, this was not worth the loss. Cho Heng wasn't a fool. Why would he do something so stupid? Wait a minute. Naka suddenly thought of a problem. In the past, they were evenly matched. It could even be said that the Sharks' reputation was always weaker than the White Whale Regiment's because the White Whale Regiment had Mo Tai, who was also a ruthless character. But it was different now. His white whale regiment had Mo Tai, while his sharks had the support of two great generals, Su Yun and Lin Gu. Not to mention that Su Yun's strength might even surpass Cho Heng's. Just this Lin Gu alone could probably make Mo Tai's life difficult. Thinking of this, Nokka's blood boiled. What a good Cho Heng! I haven't even found him, and he's already come to provoke me. Get all the brothers ready. Today, we'll have a showdown with the White Whale Regiment. Let them know that in the future, we're the boss of this ocean. Su Yun and Lin Gu didn't know whether to laugh or cry when they found out that it was Cho Heng. How were they supposed to intervene now? It's a mess. It's really a mess. Lin Gu frowned. While Naka wasn't paying attention, he whispered to Su Yun, "Bro, are we really going to help him deal with Captain Chiu?" "Of course not," Su Yun whispered. "Captain Chiu might be here to help us. Let's go take a look at the situation first and let nature take its course." Lin Gu nodded. "But no matter what, we have to rescue Phantom. I can still feel that Phantom is nearby." Su Yun naturally knew their purpose in coming here. The clash between the White Whale Regiment and the Sharks would definitely result in both sides suffering losses. Or rather, it would depend on whose side he and Lin Gu would stand on. Whichever side they stood on might be able to change the tide of the battle. This wasn't what Su Yun cared about. What Su Yun cared about was Phantom. If Naka could only release Phantom after repelling the White Whale Regiment, then he could only apologize to Cho Hang. Cho Hang knew that Naka's territory was easy to defend and difficult to attack, so he adopted a surprise attack tactic. He divided his fleet into small groups and surrounded the 13 islands guarding the main island. Then he ordered the cannons to attack one side, while the others tried to delay the other reinforcements. This way, Cho Hang could force Naka out in a short period of time. He believed that Su Yun had already met Naka, and he couldn't let his efforts go to waste like this. If he wanted to stabilize Su Yun's heart, then he would cooperate with the outside. He would fight outside and let his informants find a way to solve the problem Su Yun had to solve. Even if the price was to expose his identity as an informant who had been around Naka for so many years, Cho Hang would still do it. He couldn't care less. There was no room for maneuver in this matter. If he waited for the result, he might really let Naka take the initiative. Success or failure was only a matter of an instant. The balance of power at sea could be easily broken. Cho Hang was such a cautious person that he would never allow such a thing to happen in front of him. No matter how much he did, he would not let Naka succeed. Chapter 1643. The White Whale Regiment's combat prowess was indeed impressive. Under Cho Heng's command, they managed to break through one of the Sharks' defensive lines in a short period of time. Of course, Cho Heng paid a price as well. One of their ships was sunk by the enemy, and there were casualties among their men. This mutual destruction was the biggest reason why they didn't attack each other. When this concern was broken, Cho Heng's eyes turned red with bloodlust. Naka's team of 15 island guards was all killed by Cho Heng's men. Less than 10 minutes into the battle, the casualties on both sides had reached double digits. Perhaps these casualties didn't sound like much, but only those who didn't understand pirates would think so. In today's society, although pirates existed, they were getting fewer and fewer. Therefore, human resources were very precious to pirates. This was also why they were willing to sacrifice everything to rope in Su Yun and Lin Gu. Casualties were the last thing pirates wanted to see. In order to reduce casualties, pirates didn't even like large-scale conflicts and fights. This wasn't a casual remark. It was a fact. Real pirates didn't like fighting and killing as much as characters in 2D comics or movies. To be able to expand one's forces to the level of the White Whale Gang and the Sharks, one had to accumulate strength bit by bit. They had to constantly recruit new recruits and do their best to avoid sacrificing as much as possible. This was the real reason for their expansion. The White Whale Gang's reputation in these waters was always a little higher than the Sharks. This was also because the hunters under the Magpie World would always target the Sharks members. Therefore, even though Naka of the Sharks was better at distributing wealth than Chiu Hang, his men were always struggling between increasing and decreasing. In fact, this could be seen from ancient times to the present. For example, the pirate flag and the skull. In normal life, you would think it was a fashion to see the skull element. But in the vast sea, if you saw the skull flag, how would you feel? How nervous? How panicked? The reason why the pirates made the flag into a skull, making it so ostentatious and mighty, wasn't for fashion or aesthetics. They made the flag look like this because they wanted it to be a deterrent. Most of the time, when pirates wanted to rob a merchant ship, they didn't even need to fire a single shot. They relied on their deterrents to win. Not only could they obtain rich spoils of war, but they also did not suffer any casualties and did not consume their firearms. As compared to a real fight, it was much more practical. This was also why pirates liked to give the other party a certain amount of time after hijacking and surrounding a merchant ship. They wanted the other party to cooperate and surrender. As long as the other party surrendered and handed over their belongings, not a single life would be harmed. They would also threaten to kill everyone who resisted. Over time, this deterrence slowly accumulated. People began to know that as long as they cooperated, they would be able to stay alive. As long as they resisted, they would be slaughtered. Slowly, the pirates only needed a flag to intimidate the other party. Perhaps some people would say that this was all nonsense and that people without much life experience were just making things up. These days, the pirates in Somalia did not use any pirate flags. Instead, they directly came up to capture people. That was for sure. They did not need deterrence because they had captured people to extort money from the governments of various countries. Deterrence was *T. They would definitely take action. What was the point of making a pirate flag for no reason? The same was true for the Beluga clan. In this part of the sea, their flag was a symbol of majesty. Even when Chiu Hang brought Su Yun to rob the cruise ship that the greedy Chinese tycoon, Meng Chao, had rented for 300 million yuan, they did not make a big fuss. They only used threats to solve all the problems. They got what they wanted without using a single soldier. What was the point of killing people? Not only was it a waste of bullets, but it was also a sin. The extremely traditional Chiu Hang led so many brothers of the Beluga clan. In the face of so many slender waists, long legs, and perky buttocks, not a single one of them acted impulsively. This was also the limit of their rules. If Naka had brought his men that night, perhaps those women would have really suffered. They might have been taken to an island far away from the emperor to expand his harem. After Chiu Hang broke through the defense island, he went straight in. Naka also led his men to welcome him. The main ships of both sides approached bit by bit. This collision was definitely a clash of two sides. One was the traditional representative of the rules, Chiu Hang, and the other was the unruly Naka, who was more like a bandit. The first clash of two major forces in the Pacific Ocean would definitely be recorded in the history of this part of the sea. Finally, when the two ships were about to collide, they stopped. The distance between the bow and the bow was less than 10 meters. Naka had Su Yun and Lin Gu behind him, so he was full of confidence. Chiu Hang's confidence was in his bones. To be honest, he had always looked down on the unruly Naka. To be more serious, he even felt that Naka saying that he was a pirate was an insult to pirates. Chiu Hang, we have always minded our own business. Don't blame me for falling out with what you did today. Naka walked to the front of the deck and looked at Chiu Hang, Mo Tai, and the others without fear. Everyone's strength was equal, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Chiu Hang smiled. He had already seen Su Yun and Lin Gu behind Naka. Although he didn't know what had happened between them, he still wanted to express his intentions to Su Yun. Naka, for so many years, I have always turned a blind eye to you because you have never done anything that I can't accept. But today, I can't tolerate this. What did I do? Naka asked with a sneer. Was it because Su Yun had taken the initiative to seek refuge with him that he, Chiu Hang, couldn't help but be envious and jealous? Chiu Hang seemed to be communicating with Naka, but everything he said was for Su Yun. Brother Yun is my friend. I heard that you brought his friend to the island. Then I can't ignore this matter. Brother Yun? Naka was startled. He turned to look at Su Yun. He didn't understand. Were the two of them that close? What was going on? Naka was puzzled. Could it be that he had been used by someone to create a diversion? Who were Su Yun and Lin Gu, who were standing behind him, helping? Would I believe your nonsense? Ha 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 ha. Naka suddenly laughed wildly and said, Su Yun is my distinguished guest, my friend, and his friend is also my distinguished guest. I don't need an outsider like you to interfere in my own affairs. Cho Hang, if you want to sow discord, then don't blame me for being impolite. But from Brother Yun's expression, it seems that he hasn't seen his friend. Cho Heng's words were like sharp silver needles that pierced into Naka's heart. Naka took a deep breath and roared in anger, That's my business. After we take care of you, I will naturally let them meet as good friends. This is a matter between us friends. Captain Chiu, you don't need to worry about it. Captain Chiu, you trespassed into my forbidden area. Let's settle this matter properly. We should settle this matter properly. Cho Hang sneered and then shouted at Su Yun, Brother Yun, don't be fooled by him. I've heard about your friend. She's being held captive by Nazca. But don't worry, I will definitely help you find her. Su Yun frowned. This matter really made him in a dilemma. Mr. Su Yun, please believe in our captain's words. Mo Tai added, if he can get people to inquire about this news, then he can also get people to help you find her on this island. Hearing this, Naka also understood why Su Yun knew that there were shadow clansmen on his island. He gritted his teeth and cursed, Bastard Cho Hang, you actually placed an informant beside me. So what? Cho Hang also completely shed all pretense of cordiality. Su Yun, I treat you sincerely. I will do what I say. You and I will work together to kill Cho Hang. I will definitely let you leave with your friend. Naka turned around and said, Believe me, his people will never be able to help you find your friend. Only I can. Chapter 1644. Both sides gave Su Yun a reasonable reason. As long as Su Yun nodded, no matter which side it was, they would have an absolute advantage in momentum. In this situation, as long as Su Yun said a word, victory or defeat would be decided. When all the pressure was placed on Su Yun's shoulders, it was indeed a headache. But he had to make a choice and make a judgment. As for whose words were more trustworthy, Su Yun already had an answer. That's right, he had also stayed on Cho Heng's ship, and when he was about to leave, Cho Hang did not stop him. And he was here with Naka, so it would not be so easy for him to leave. In terms of feelings, Su Yun was more inclined to Cho Hang. He believed that a person who could still follow the rules, even if he was not a good person, was a person with principles. As for Naka, a person who regarded any rules as nothing, he had no principles, so naturally, there was no integrity to speak of. However, rationally speaking, this was Naka's territory, and Naka was familiar with everything here. Judging from Cho Heng's current losses, this was definitely the first time he had launched an attack on this place. If Naka had any secret rooms or dungeons, it would be really difficult to find them. Although this island was not big, if one really had to dig 3 feet into the ground to find the phantom, it would probably take at least 3 to 5 days. In 3 to 5 days, a person could not eat or sleep, but if they did not even have a mouthful of fresh water, they would probably not be able to hold on. In this aspect, Su Yun was deeply touched. He had once fallen into the enemy's trap. The feeling of not having a drop of water for 3 days made him feel as if he had turned into a dried corpse. On the 4th day, he even felt that the gaps between his teeth were about to crack. Su Yun would never forget that feeling in his life, so Su Yun felt uncomfortable thinking about this possibility. This made him have to consider Naka more. At least Naka could guarantee that the phantom would not be subjected to that kind of inhuman endurance and torture. Thinking of this, Su Yun seemed to have made his decision. Without saying anything, he suddenly jumped up and rushed to the bow of the ship. His feet touched the ground, and his body soared into the sky like a meteor falling from the sky, landing heavily on the bow of Cho Heng's ship. The atmosphere suddenly became very quiet. Even Lin Guo was stunned. He didn't know if he should rush forward, but he could feel that Su Yun was about to attack Cho Hang. When Naka saw this, a victorious expression quickly appeared on his face. He knew that he had taken the lead. As long as Su Yun was willing to stand by his side, then he could look down on everything. Even if his opponent was Cho Hang, even if the Bai Jing clan's reputation was greater than that of the Sharks clan, he still had the confidence to win. Brother Yun, no matter what choice you make, I will respect you. Cho Hang looked at Su Yun, who had already appeared at the bow of his ship. No matter what, your choice is based on your heart. You are doing this for your friends. I appreciate your loyalty, and this makes me admire you even more. Even if you choose to stand against me today, I will support you. As a person, you must pay attention to righteousness. For Cho Hang to say this, his awareness was indeed too noble. Mo Tai watched Su Yun's every move vigilantly. As long as he made any move, he would immediately counterattack. Mr. Su Yun, our captain decided to come here and fight with Naka because of you. What kind of reputation does Naka have? What kind of reputation does our captain have? You can ask around in the Pacific Ocean. Hearing the other party's slander, Naka was naturally unwilling. Mo Tai, who do you think you are? You don't have the right to speak here. Mo Tai ignored Naka's clamor and continued, Captain said that he would help you find your friends, so he will definitely do it. But Naka said that he would let them go, so will he be able to do it? You have to think about it carefully. Su Yun, do it. Kill Cho Hang, and I'll let you leave with your friends immediately. Naka couldn't tolerate it any longer. Who knew what else Mo Tai would say? As a Muay Thai expert, Naka's explosive power couldn't be underestimated. He rushed to the bow of the ship and used his aura to lead the aura of all his subordinates. He wanted to rush directly to the Beluga Whale Regiment's battleship and take Mo Tai's head. Yes, Naka wasn't confident that he could easily take Cho Hang's head. If he wanted to kill Cho Hang, he needed Su Yun to make a move first, and then he would wait for an opportunity to move. Only in this way would he have a 100% chance and confidence to take Cho Hang's head. But what Naka never expected was that things would change after he jumped high. The moment he jumped behind Su Yun had already turned around and attacked. His target wasn't Cho Hang, but himself. Naka quickly raised his arms to block. The huge impact still caused him to slide back 2 meters. If he hadn't been trained since childhood, his arms would have been crippled by Su Yun's feet. Naka shook his numb arms and glared at Su Yun with his triangular eyes. Seeing this, Lin Guo also used autumn wind sweeps the fallen leaves to sweep away several people around him, gaining the upper hand. Cho Hang, who was relieved, waved his hand and Mo Tai led his men to swarm towards Naka's battleship. This was no longer a situation that Naka could control. Although his men were also very brave, they lacked talents like Lin Guo and Mo Tai. Su Yun, what do you mean? Have you thought about the consequences of your actions? Naka didn't want to fight with Su Yun. Even so, he still didn't want to fall out with Su Yun. It wasn't that he was afraid, but if he fell out with Su Yun, it would mean giving Cho Hang a chance. If he were to face Su Yun alone, he still had a little confidence. But if he were to face Su Yun and Cho Hang together, he really didn't have a chance at all. Su Yun's strength still needed to be estimated in Naka's eyes, but the head on Cho Hang's head was worth 77 million. It was not much different from the head of the Hunter School's #1 instructor, Zhui Ming Dong Fong, who was worth 80 million. He didn't even have the possibility to deal with Cho Hang alone. How could he push out such a powerful helper like Su Yun? If you help him, I can promise you that you will never see that Shadow Clan woman again in your life. Naka's voice was a little hysterical because he had already heard the painful roars of his men being beaten. Su Yun said expressionlessly, I hate it when people threaten me, especially when they threaten me with the people I care about. Naka, there's a saying in Hua Xia, a dragon has a reverse scale that cannot be touched. Do you understand? Humph, I don't know what you're talking about, but if you really have the guts, then have a one-on-one duel with me. Naka said. Chiu Hung suddenly came behind Su Yun and sneered at Naka. Naka, do we still need to pay attention to a duel with you? Chiu Hung. You and I both know that pirates have pirate rules. If you're a man, then have a one-on-one duel with me. Naka said, the winner takes all. Su Yun, do you dare? Are you worthy of talking about pirate rules? Chiu Hung said disdainfully, when did you follow pirate rules? Now you're thinking about pirate rules in order to save your life? Hey. But I don't want to talk about pirate rules with you now. Besides, Su Yun is not a pirate. Naka was angry, but he had nowhere to vent his anger. One-on-one. Su Yun's mouth revealed an evil smile. Okay, I promise you. I also like this kind of upright duel between men. Hearing this, Naka instantly surged. No matter what, the value of his head was still higher than Su Yun's. He believed that if he was careful and used some small tricks, he wouldn't lose to Su Yun. Brother Yun, there's no need for that. Chiu Hung glanced at the delighted Naka and frowned. Su Yun shook his head. I think it's still necessary. After all, he imprisoned my friend. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.